This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And today we are going to be doing our NBA mock lottery again. This time, no live lotto. The lotto was just set. We were recording this the day of the NBA lottery. This one's about at 8:30, so about an hour after the lottery has been set. We have the lotto. Suns get the number one pick. They don't get Suns for the first time in franchise history.
We were right about
Well
the
done.
Hawks.
Well done.
We were right about the Hawks. They're the only top three we were right about.
The Suns do get the number one pick in the first time in their franchise history, at least since 1985 when they started the NBA Lotto. The Kings get the number 2 pick, jumping up from the number 7th position. Then at 3, the Atlanta Hawks, like Ricky mentioned, are going to be picking 3rd. The Grizzlies at 4, Mavericks at 5, Magic at 6, Bulls at 7, Cavs at 8 via the Nets, 9 the Knicks, 76ers at 10, Hornets at 11, Clippers at 12 and 13, and the Nuggets at 14. So that's what we're going to be doing on today's special edition of the podcast. We still have our Friday podcast coming out as well. But before we jump into the mock draft, we do want to give you a little bit of directions. First off, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. We're growing ever so fastly. I think 900 last month, and we're on pace right now for 900 this month as well. So if you haven't subscribed, you're a new viewer, definitely hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're listening to us on iTunes, rate us 5 stars over there. And while you're doing, the Fast Break Podcast, do the Onside Kick, do the Primetime Podcast, do the Rick and Johnny Podcast. Super fun times over there. Also, if you're not on iTunes or on YouTube, go check out The Outcast. Buzz and Juice just interviewed Kelly Scaletta of Bleacher Report. Also, if you want to help support us in any different way, you want to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. If you ever want to be on a podcast, check out that $10 tier on patreon.com. We also have a $5 tier, a $2 tier, and a $1 tier. Also, check out mostvaluablepodcast.com if you want to rock an MVP t-shirt. Forgetting anything, Ricky?
Did you mention the website?
I did not mention the website. Well, I did, because the t-shirt, mostvaluablepodcast.com.
And did you mention iTunes?
I did.
Okay.
So we're good. And let's do the mock draft. Ricky,
Yeah, that's great.
Start us off, 1 through 14.
Well, we're going to start off number 1, the Phoenix Suns. They're going to go with Luka Doncic overseas. Then we're going to go with the Kings, number 2, DeAndre Ayton, falling to them from Arizona. Then at number 3, the Hawks. A little shocker here for me. Never had him go this high. Trae Young, the guard from Oklahoma, going to the Hawks.
Well, hold on real quick. That's a lie, because we had them in our top 3.
That's right. When the Magic were that high, he did go that high.
You said them that high.
Yes.
So I thought you were talking about the Hawks.
Well, the thing with me is Trae Young has always gone to the Magic in one of my mock drafts. This is the first time he's not going to Orlando. Then the Grizzlies at 4 going with Marvin Bagley the third. Mavericks at 5 going Mo Bamba, the center from Texas. And this is the highest I've had, this one I know for sure. Number 6, the Magic, going Colin Sexton, the guard from Alabama. Then the Bulls at 7, my Bulls going with MPJ, the forward from Mizzou. Jaren Jackson going to the Cavs at 8. Mikal Bridges going to the Knicks at 9. 10, the 76ers going Wendell Carter Jr. Kevin Knox then to the Hornets at 11. Clippers double pick, they'll go Miles Bridges. Then they'll go Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And then rounding out the lottery, the Nuggets go Kyrie Thomas, the guard from Creighton.
David Oster, give us your 1 through 14.
My 1 through 14 goes like this. I've got DeAndre Ayton going to the Suns, number 1. Luka Doncic going to the Kings at 2. Marvin Bagley III going to the Hawks at 3. Jaren Jackson Jr. to the Grizzlies at 4. Mohamed Bamba to the Mavs at 5. Trae Young, as always, as prophecy is written, to the Magic at 6. Michael Porter Jr. to the Bulls. Mikal Bridges to the Cavs. Kevin Knox to the Knicks. Zaire Smith to the 76ers. Colin Sexton to the Hornets. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to the Clippers. Then Wendell Carter Jr. to the Clippers. And finally, Miles Bridges to the Nuggets.
And my number was 1 through 14, the lotto only. The Suns picking DeAndre Ayton, the center out of Arizona, at 1. The Kings at 2, taking Luka Doncic, the guard from overseas. Then 3, the Atlanta Hawks going with Marvin Bagley III from Duke. At 4, the Memphis Grizzlies going with Jaren Jackson Jr. from Michigan State University. Then at 5, the Dallas Mavericks going with Mo Bamba, the center out of Texas. Then the Orlando Magic going with Trae Young from Oklahoma. Then 7, the Bulls going with Michael Porter Jr. from Missouri. At 8, the Cleveland Cavaliers going with Mikal Bridges from Villanova. 9, the New York Knicks going with Wendell Carter Jr. from Duke. Then at 10, not the Los Angeles Lakers, the Philadelphia 76ers via Los Angeles Lakers going Miles Bridges from Michigan Michigan State University. Then 11, the Charlotte Hornets going Colin Sexton from Alabama. 12, the Los Angeles Clippers at 12 and 13 going Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Kevin Knox, two Kentucky kids right there. And then at 14, the Denver Nuggets going with Zaire Smith from Texas Tech. So the way we're going to do this is similar to the live lotto that we just did. We're going to go through every single team 1 through 14. I'm going to put timestamps as well once this video does go up like I did last time. So if you do want to skip to your favorite team, please do so. But if you just want to, always come back, check out some different teams, do that. We love you guys watching and digesting all of our content here on MVP. But let's get into it, boys. At number 1, the Suns don't get Suns. They get the number 1 overall pick. They had the highest odds at 25%. And the prophecy was fulfilled. No rigging there. The Phoenix Suns were projected to get the number 1 overall pick, and they did. Ricky, you're the only one that went away with us. You went Luka Doncic at 1. Dave and I going DeAndre Ayton at 1. We talked a little bit about this in the Igor Koskovo second. I hope I'm saying that right this time. Again, if I fucked it up, I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. But Igor Koskovo, the new hire for the Philadelphia Sixers, the Phoenix Suns. What?
Is it Koskovo or Kokoskov?
I think it's Kokoskov.
Kokoskov.
Yeah.
All right, Igor Kokoskov. Kokoskov. Anyways, Igor Kokoskov, the new head coach for the Phoenix Suns, the Slovenian men's national basketball team coach for Eurobasket 2017, coach Luka. You have them going kind of that similar length.
Yeah, and I mean, with me, I know the whole thing, because originally you had him going Luka too, and then you changed it because you're like, I listened to what Igor said.
I don't know what to do.
Well, the thing, here's what I'm looking at is, if you bring in a guy like Igor, who has coached Luka Doncic before, why not draft Luka Doncic? And we have talked about before, do they really have a ball handler that they really like? Like, yeah, we like Tyler Ulis a little, Brandon Knight. We're trying to get him out of town as much as possible. Bring in a guy like Luka. Dev Book is then not your ball handler. I think the whole Ayton thing might be a little, hey, let me talk him up. So a team like the Kings, who are right behind me, might want to trade up. A little Boston Celtic strategy here. Hey, 76ers, you want this guy, right? You really want him, huh? I don't think that the Suns are going to do that. I would just take Luka number 1 and be happy with him.
Again, outside of that trade last year for the Phoenix not the Phoenix Suns, goddamn it, the 76ers and the Celtics, we don't see teams trading that 1-3, and that was a very specific situation.
Well, that was Danny Ainge being Danny Ainge.
Well, that was Danny Ainge, but also, again, they didn't have the number 1 player was Markelle Fultz. Markelle Fultz really did not fit the Boston Celtics there.
Yeah.
We thought they needed a 3. They went out and got the best 3 in their mind, the best player also in their mind, in Jason Tatum. So, again, we looked at that, and we weren't really shocked by that. Outside of that, we don't really see the number 1 pick, the number 2 pick, and the number 3 pick really getting traded that much. So, I mean, I understand the trade's always an option, but I don't think any of these teams are really trading their picks. Again, I think the biggest connection is, again, Koskovo and Luka. Kokoskov. Fuck it, whatever. Igor. Fine, we're done. All right? It's Igor. I don't see them really. It's a huge connection, but also, is Igor going to be pulling that much weight right now, or is it going to be again what Ryan McDonough said a little bit ago, where he said Ayton is their guy, again from Arizona, out of Arizona University, also a kid who grew up and he was from the Bahamas, but I think he played his high school ball in Arizona as well. Again, are they going to stick with the hometown kid in Ayton, or are they going to go with the guy that the head coach is at least familiar with? And you brought up the press conference. Igor mentioned you are who you guard about Devin Booker and said Devin Booker's a playmaker. So pretty much he was talking like Devin Booker might be the one for this team. So that's the reason why I flip. I think that Luka's a good fit on this team, and I think if I'm personally picking, I would go Luka because of that fit with Igor. It's just, I think Ayton's been their guy for such a long time.
The other thing you got to look into when you're the Suns is you do have that 16th overall pick as well. And for me, I like the bigs that'll be available at 16 a lot more than the point guards or ball handlers that'll be there, because Sexton will be gone, Gilgeous will probably be gone, Trae Young will definitely be gone. So with me, I would go Doncic, there's my ball handler, and then I'll go with a Mitchell Robinson or Robert Williams at 16.
Yeah, I was about to mention you didn't have Mitchell Robinson, a guy you like a lot. He's still available at 16. Dave, I mean, you're on the Ayton side right now. Is that because you don't think he's the best player? You've consistently said Luka's the best player in this draft.
I completely agree that Luka's, in my mind, Luka's still the best player coming into this draft. Ayton is just a 7-1 freak, though.
So are you following the Ryan McDonough, he's our guy fellowship, or do you think even Luka would probably be the better fit? Do you think Luka would be the fit,
Luka would be the better fit right now. I think that you add a center and Ayton, even if he plays the 4, whatever they end up deciding that is best for his fit, I think they go with Ayton there. I think that what we saw last year was 6 point guards, if I'm recalling correctly, playing for the Suns. So I don't think they've got anyone they really love. Elfrid Payton did a serviceable job, but was like net negative every single game, I want to say.
He was Elfrid Payton. He didn't do anything crazy different
he had
from
triple-double,
Orlando Magic.
which was hilarious.
One triple-double.
Which is hilarious.
From the Orlando Magic to the Suns,
I think Devin Booker is
a
a primary ball handler. I think you roll that. Like you said, playmaker. I agree with that. You watched him. He has some skill with the ball. I think ball handling skills will go on as time goes. But having DeAndre Ayton pair with him on the pick and roll, going high-low, that's just a disgusting matchup. I think Luka, while a good player to add to that team, is not an ideal fit for them because he fits in that wing range, and they have some decent depth there already between TJ, Josh Jackson, and Dev Book, so I wouldn't really lock him down there. I think that Ayton fits a clear need for this team and is a huge stepping stone for them moving forward, keeping that core nice and young.
I mean, the biggest thing for the Suns right now, we've talked about this a little bit, is just the fact that outside of Josh Jackson, they really don't have a defensive stopper on this team. I mean, you look at Devin Booker, he's not great defensively. You look at Marquise Chris, he hasn't really shown that much outside of athleticism, and even then, he still seems a little bit undisciplined, showed up a little bit overweight and not in shape at a couple camps ago, even though I think Ryan McDonough just said he's in the best shape of his career so far. And again, he's only 20 years old. Dragan Bender, again, is very raw, very, very skin and bone right now, both physically and literally when it comes to the basketball court. So they don't really have a defensive stopper, and Luka and Ayton really don't fit that mold as well because Ayton's best skill sets are offensively. Same with Luka. Luka's passing ability, Luka's size, also Luka's shot making ability as well. So I mean, we've seen that the Suns are a team that can really go either direction for Luka or DeAndre. So it's not too shocking. I just think that again, Ayton has been their guy, and I think this is what they will do. I think they should go Luka though, even though I do have them going Ayton, just because I think while Devin Booker had near 5 assists per game last year, he has that playmaking ability. I think having 2 ball handlers in Luka and in Devin Booker could be really dynamic, and we don't trust Brandon Knight's health. I mean, this is a guy that hasn't been on the basketball court consistently pretty much his whole NBA career. You look at Tyler Ulis, you mentioned him. Mm-hmm. He played, I think, 74 games for them last year, 22 minutes per game. But again, he's a guy that is small, not going to be able to be a consistent starter for you.
He literally lost his role to 3 D-leaguers, or G-leaguers.
Elfrid Payton is a guy that's an RFA in this upcoming offseason. So I think that adding a guy like Luka kind of brings you into the modern NBA. You have a guy who can be a forward and guard 3s and 4s and possibly even 2s in Luka, and he can be a ball handler for you and set up Devin Booker, and Booker can work off ball. But Booker can also help set up Luka. Luka can use his body, set up screens for Josh Jackson working off ball as well. Josh Jackson could also work well with a guy like Dragan Bender. You have a stretch 4 in Dragan Bender. You have a small ball 5 in Marquise Chris, even though I know he's very raw and he's only 20 years old.
You could even swap that because I think Bender can play the 5 for them if they're going with Igor's offense and defensive systems coming in. Dragan Bender might be more of an asset to them than he had been in his previous 2 years.
Well, and he really likes Dragan Bender and has worked with him overseas as well. Because I think Bender playing for the Croatian team in Eurobasket, and then obviously Igor being coach for Slovenian team in Eurobasket 2017 as well. So I mean, he's seen what Dragan Bender can do. I think that Chris fits more of the typical 5. Maybe not in Igor's system, but typical 5. I see Chris being that, and then Bender being your stretch 4, being a 3-and-D player. That's Josh Jackson, and then you could switch, primary ball handlers and secondary ball handlers in Devin Booker and in Luka Doncic. Again, I just going off of what McDonough said. They said they like Ayton. Ayton's an Arizona guy. Why wouldn't they go Ayton? I mean, that's really
it's hard to pass
writing on the wall right there.
I think the thing is who wants to be the guy who passes on someone like DeAndre Ayton? He's 7'1". He has all the physicals. He has none of the health concerns of a big man. He has good athleticism, good shot good shot making. His creation's not amazing, but he has the potential to be amazing because of that size advantage over everyone. The only thing that hurts him is his motor. So you have to take a look and be like, was it because he didn't feel a challenge? Was it because he didn't have the right coaching staff around him? How do you ensure that he's motivated at the next level? And if you get that concern solved, then you can start building on his defensive IQ, making sure that he knows where he needs to be on that defense. He walked away with he still was able to get blocks just purely off of his size. Imagine if he's actually, trying and giving effort and coached into it. Like, he is someone who I don't think you, like Ricky was talking about Mohamed Bamba being the guy, like, how could anyone pass up on this guy in a couple years? I'm thinking no one wants to be the guy who misses on someone like DeAndre Ayton.
And the one thing that just hearing you, I know it's a totally different thing, but hearing you be like, oh, if you can figure out his like want to play the game, I think that's just because in college he would have been a guy that comes straight from high school and he would have went to college. But the thing I think of is I kind of have shades of Laurie in my head where it was like, it wasn't exactly, oh, this kid doesn't want to play. But after the tournament, you weren't that high on Laurie, an Arizona guy, came out, did some good things in the NBA.
Well, it was just because of his second half. They were forcing him into the wrong role, and he wasn't really showing his potential.
DeAndre Ayton might be a similar thing where it's like in the NBA, you see that want to play because A, he's getting cheddar now for doing what he loves, and B,
as if he wasn't before.
He's where he wants to be. Well, he was on a Sean Miller team, so we know that.
It's going to be interesting to see what happened, but our Patreon, Jake, and you give a shout out to him. He was DMing me on Twitter, and he said, clearly Ayton's the number 1 overall pick here. Clearly. He has a higher ceiling. He's a safer pick. Who do you think's a safer pick? Is it going to be Luka Doncic or is it going to be DeAndre Ayton? Because in my mind, I think it's Luka. Again, he's been a pro for so long in his overseas career. He's a guy that I think does a lot of things well. He isn't great at a ton of things, but he's good at a lot of things. And again, I think that he can be a starter at least in the NBA for the next 13 years. And I would probably, again, bet something of value, and can't bet my car, I get it, something of value on that over Ayton, where Ayton might have the higher ceiling. But again, we talk about the defensive concerns. We talk about the, at least, effort concerns. I think that at least Luka is a safer pick here. Maybe not a more higher potential pick. And Jake is too.
I think DeAndre Ayton is the safer pick only because with Luka Doncic, and you can say right or wrong whether he should have this, there is that stipulation with international players. Yeah, guys like Nurkic and Kristaps are kind of breaking that stereotype a little bit. But for the better part of Euro players, it's most of them that were drafted high kind of turned out to be busts overall. And I mean, I'm not saying that Luka's
Bargnani was, but outside of that, I wouldn't.
Darko Milicic. I mean, he did get a ring quicker than LeBron, but
15 years ago.
No, I'm still saying, like, for the better part, it's Euro players there's this weird stipulation with them. And that's why on the other side, I would say DeAndre Ayton is the safer pick. Luka Doncic might be the riskier pick because of that stipulation and because no one really knows where his ceiling is for sure, but they know where Doncic's floor is right now.
Well, and one thing, too, I mean, you mentioned that, he was, what did you mention about Darko? It's just pretty much.
Oh, it was like 15 years ago.
It's 15 years ago, but
it's changed so much.
It's 15 years ago, but the thing I want to bring up is all the other 4 guys in that top 5 are still in the league, or Chris Bosh, who should still be in the league, but again, he had unseen health concerns that took him out. I mean, Chris Bosh can still play in the NBA.
Carmelo Anthony probably shouldn't be in the NBA.
He shouldn't be making $27 million, but he can still be playing in the NBA.
And those
players, like, they clearly missed with Darko.
I'm not arguing that. No, my point is the fact that people are putting someone like Luka Doncic in the category of he can walk in the league and probably put up, like 14, 4, and 4 as a rookie, and that's a baseline. That's a pretty solid baseline. That's a above average NBA player right there, and that's regardless of team, regardless of fit, regardless of coaching staff. That's where they're going. This is probably about where he would start off at age 19. If you're telling me I can get 14, 4, and 4, and a player who has an incredible basketball IQ, an incredible effort, a solid body, all he needs to do is work on his athleticism. Athleticism and obviously shot, but still, like, I'm happy with that baseline versus someone who I could see, DeAndre Ayton, if I'm playing devil's advocate here, you could see shades of Ja. You could see a guy who isn't willing to put in the work ethic. You could see a guy who has all the talent in the world. Ja had the best post moves we've seen since Tim Duncan coming out of college. And now what is he doing?
But
he's a bum.
Ayton has shown that he has the ability to at least expand his game beyond the low post. I mean, Ayton has shown the ability to at least shoot from the outside.
But that doesn't mean that he's going to try. That doesn't mean he's going to hustle. That doesn't mean that he is not going to be a net negative for his team.
True,
like
but
playing pure devil's advocate. I don't believe this wholeheartely, but the point is, if you see shades of that versus shades of above average NBA players your floor, I don't understand how you think the bigger risk
But I think he shades more similar to Cat than he does Ja. Where Cat, again, we see the lack of defensive effort in Cat, but again, he's still a monster offensively. I see more shades of Cat and DeAndre Ayton than I do Ja. And also, I mean, would you be shocked if DeAndre Ayton comes in and puts up 16 points per game, 10 rebounds, and a block and a half?
I already said he was putting up like
season.
17-9.
So, I mean, like, if Luka's 14-4-4 and Ayton's 16-10 and a block and a half, that's nothing crazy. I mean, both of those guys are having phenomenal rookie years in their first go around.
I think what it is I think GMs have an idea in their head I see DeAndre Ayton. This is the ceiling line of where I can get him to be. With Luka, it's what you said is great. Oh, come in and put out those stats at the rookie line, but no one knows for sure how high that ceiling is. Is it a little bit higher than that at the NBA? Is it a lot higher than that? Or is it in the middle? And that's why I would say he would be the riskier pick and Ayton would be the safer pick.
Again, I'm just going back to I think Luka is at least a starter for the next 13 years in his career, 13 to 10 in his next whatever years. And I see him being at least a number 2 on a team. And you have Devin Booker who can be a 1. So you have Devin Booker being your number 1 option, Luka being your number 2, and then you can have possibly Dragon Bender turn into that third option, or even Josh Jackson can turn into that third option.
Yeah.
So I think again safer. I think it's Luka, and that's why I think they should go Luka over DeAndre Ayton, because I think Luka brings more to this team. Even though DeAndre Ayton's a freak physically, I still think that Luka is a safer pick. I think he's going to bring something that's much needed in professionalism to the Phoenix Suns, at least locker room. And then also, he's going to mold well with Igor. Now, the only thing that you could bring up there is if him and Igor are so close, will that rub the wrong way onto the other players in the locker room? That's a topic for a different discussion, I think.
Yeah.
But final thoughts on Luka Doncic or DeAndre Ayton to the Phoenix Suns?
I think I kind of land on the side of Ayton is just too good to be passed up on this year. I still believe Luka is the better player coming into the NBA. I think Ayton has a crazy high top end, and because of his health being so clear, because of his body being so well built for his age, it's extremely hard for any GM to pass up on someone who has that kind of star potential for someone like Luka, where, like you said, maybe the top end isn't really clearly defined of what he could be.
I'm going with Luka mainly because I can go with that big later on. I have a second pick to work with if I'm the Suns.
And we're going to see, this is going to be a topic of conversation for a while now, up into the draft in late June. So we're probably going to have a topic discussion on this
Who
at
should the
some
number
point
one
too.
pick be? Because now we know for sure it's going to be the Suns all the way through.
And we could probably talk about this for a whole hour. So let us know who you would pick. If you're a Suns fan, if you're not a Suns fan, who would you pick with the number 1 overall pick? Are you going to go Luka? Are you going to go DeAndre Ayton? Or, hey, maybe you're in the camp of a Michael Porter Jr. Think he's going to be the next NBA star. Maybe you're in the camp of Trae Young.
We'll see what happens this weekend at the Combine.
In the comments down below. But we have a little bit of time. Let's move to the next team in the Sacramento Kings. And we have either Luka Doncic or DeAndre Ayton here. But the thing I think we should talk about here, at least for the Kings, first of all, because I haven't going Luka. Dave hasn't going Luka because we both had Ayton going one, and then Ricky has them going Ayton because he had Luka going 2. I think the biggest thing, though, is the fact that the Kings got the number 2 overall pick. This is absolutely massive for the Sacramento Kings. Ricky, we talked consistently about the Kings draft. We talked about Michael Porter Jr.'s fit. We talked about other prospects' fit. But this is an absolute get for the Sacramento Kings.
It is.
And, I mean, you're not number 1, but hell, this is one hell of a draft lottery for the Sacramento Kings.
Well, and the reason why it is that to me is I'm going to just come out and say it. And I know you said before what we saw last year with the Celtics and the 76ers, we don't see every year. But as soon as I saw the Kings get the number 2 pick, I said trade the pick. And
why? Why, though? You have the best option.
Wait.
You can pick the... Okay.
Right now, I'm not saying for sure trade the pick.
Yeah.
It depends on what we see at the Combine. Because if Michael Porter Jr. proves everything that we've been saying wrong, and he is then the number 1 prospect. I did. But if he proves everything wrong and the injury is no factor, he's the guy to go with. And here's the thing.
So then why are you trading the pick? Just pick him too.
Here it is. Depends on where where his kind of stock is. Is this going to be he's an if de facto number 2? Or could this be, hey, and I'm looking just at my mock draft. If DeAndre Ayton is there, what if a team, and this could be exactly like the Celtics, a team that was 2 picks away, a team like the Grizzlies, a team like the Mavericks, they're the team I'm looking at more, trading, because Michael Porter Jr. could still be there at that time. Get your guy, get more picks. This could be a pick that could be a prime one to be traded like it was last year. But if I'm sitting there making the pick right now, I'm going DeAndre Ayton if I'm the Kings.
Why risk it, though? Why risk it? I mean, the thing with the Celtics was their guy was Jason Tatum. So their whole thing was they had the ability to move down if they wanted to choose because they were either going to get Jason Tatum 1 or they're going to get Jason Tatum 3. Jason Tatum wasn't going to go number 2 because the Lakers were going to go Lonzo Ball, and they knew the 76ers were going to go with Markelle Fultz.
And
they weren't trading up to get real quick. They weren't trading up to get Jason Tatum. If you're the Kings, you love Michael Porter Jr. Take him at 2. No, I mean there's a chance the Hawks get him at 3.
Here's the thing, though, and this is something that I think is going to take a lot of time to develop because there are some answers to this that we don't know, but the situation could fall exactly like you said last year. With the Hawks, I'll get into it now. Reason why I had them go with the pick that I'm going to talk about in a little bit is because of the Dennis Schroeder stuff. If they're sitting there, have already moved Schroeder, or they're thinking about it, they're for sure, if at the draft they're like, hey, for sure, we're going to go with a point guard, then it's like, okay, it's just like the Lonzo Ball thing. They're not going to take a Michael Porter. Then you can go and call the Grizzlies. What if the Grizzlies wanted DeAndre Ayton, can play him at the 4, then I get Michael
Lonzo
Porter
went 2 because he was the best player available.
No, and what I'm saying is
Trae Young isn't the best player available if Michael Porter Jr. is healthy on the board.
Lonzo went 2 because the Lakers Lonzo.
But Lonzo was also the second best player on the board. We went in there thinking that it was either him or Markelle Fultz.
It all depends on what happens with the Hawks, with the Dennis Schroeder stuff, and what happens with Michael Porter at the Combine. If the Kings can make a trade with the Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies move up to get DeAndre Ayton, and the Kings know the Hawks aren't going to go with Porter Jr., and they can get Porter Jr. with the Grizzlies pick and get future picks from the Grizzlies, I would make that move if I was the Kings. That's all I'm saying.
The Grizz can go any option, though. They don't need DeAndre Ayton. I mean, that's the thing is you look at the Kings right now, they need a 3 or they need a 5. So right there, you have your shot, at least in your lottery, DeAndre Ayton or Michael Porter Jr. if he's healthy. Then the Hawks, if one of those guys is off the board, they need a 3, they need a 5, they need a 1, they need a 2. They can go any direction. And the Memphis is the same way. Outside of Marc Gasol and Mike Conley, they don't have anything locked up. They can go Michael Porter Jr. I think Michael Porter Jr. is a better fit for them than DeAndre Ayton. And DeAndre Ayton, we talked about this a little bit, that he can play the 4. So, again, I don't think it's locked that any team is locked to a certain player. And if Michael Porter Jr. is healthy, that throws a huge wrench into this whole situation.
That's why we have to have the answers or the questions, I should say, answered before it's for sure. But I could see this pick being traded.
I don't know. I think a lot, like you said, depends on Michael Porter at the Combine. If he comes in 10 pounds lighter and in game shape, which I know is hard to do, but during this offseason, he's now had a month worth of time to prep himself for this event. So if he doesn't make the effort in that 1 month to get back in shape, there's a serious concern there. If he's not moving quickly, if he doesn't have the same level of agility that he showed early in high school, and then we got robbed of in college, I'm going to be a little concerned about his draft stock. That's why I think Ricky's not the craziest man when he says if he turns up to this Combine and looks like what we expect him to be in college, then I think we have some cause for concern because, like you said, things can go anywhere in the top from 2 through 4.
My thought is, though, if Michael Porter Jr. is healthy, like you're saying, why do the Kings need to trade down to get him? Because I think if he's healthy, the Hawks will want him, the Grizzlies will want him, so why would they need to trade? I say just if you like a guy, take him at where you're slotted. You were just gifted the number 2 overall pick. Go and get your guy, whether that's DeAndre Ayton, whether that's Michael Porter Jr., go and get the guy that you want that's going to help your team. If that's Michael Porter Jr., go and do that. So I don't think there's a need to trade down. I think, it's just something if he's not healthy, then that's where you throw it out there. But even then, I'm not going to trade down and get a Michael Porter Jr. that's not fully healthy.
And that's why the second part of it is important, too, of what's going to happen with Dennis Schroeder. Like the article that came out 6 hours ago that apparently he's not happy where the Hawks are going. He's already said he's indicated that he wants to play for the Pacers or the Bucks. If they're a team that by draft time is already for sure moved on from Schroeder or for sure going to move on from him, then that could solidify an answer for the Kings. And no matter how the one pick goes, if it goes how I had it and Luka goes, then I target the Grizzlies or the Mavericks for a trade. But if Ayton goes number 1 and the Hawks are going to move on from the Dennis Schroeder, then if I'm the Kings, I pick up the Hawks and go, Hey man, you really want Luka, man.
The thing is that even
build
if
a franchise around him.
If Dennis Schroeder is moved, if he's moved, it opens up a position of need. But again, that doesn't mean they're going to take a point guard just because Dennis Schroeder's off the team. They're just going to go with the best player available, whether that's Michael Porter Jr., whether that's Trae Young, whether that's DeAndre Ayton if he falls that far, whether that's Luka Doncic if he falls that far. It's going to be the best player available. It doesn't matter about the position of need. If Dennis Schroeder's off the team, that's fine. It's not going to make them a playoff. It's not going to take them out of the playoff. They're a terrible team with or without Dennis Schroeder.
Like I've said, though, what we said about the Combine and Porter and the Schroeder, it works in conjunction. Both have to fit the right pieces. I'm not saying it's for sure going to happen, but if it fits the right and the planets align, things could happen that way.
I just don't see a reason why the Kings should move that pick. The Kings are not a team like Boston that was going to be a playoff team. They're not a team that's going to be trying to accumulate assets to try to move for a bigger player like Kyrie Irving. They're not going to try to accumulate more picks to move for a player like Anthony Davis if they do that in the offseason, or another big name like that. They're a team that's trying to get game-changing players. Pick that game changer that you think it too. We talked about this with the Cleveland Browns. You mean they moved from Carson Wentz, they moved from Deshaun Watson. Go and get the guy that you think is going to affect your team at number 2. Don't take that risk and move away because this team is one piece away. Go and draft that piece at number 2.
Here's the thing, though, that plays into it. Would you go with, and I'll ask you this, let's say the whole situational fallout where the Hawks are going to move on from Schroeder, Michael Porter Jr. shows good at the Combine, but it's not like if de facto he's number 2. With the Kings, what would you do knowing that next year your pick's going to Philly or Boston, so you're not going to have a first rounder? That's another thing that plays into it to where if I can get a next year and move down only 2 and get Michael Porter Jr., then I can do that.
It's a lot of ifs.
And get a pick.
Like I said, this team is one piece away from having their future starting 5 in place. Again, whether that means them taking DeAndre Ayton and filling up that 5 spot, and that means they're going to get rid of Willie Cauley-Stein, whether let him walk in free agency or trade him, that fills in the 5 spot. I mean, you can move around Harry Giles, play the 5, and then DeAndre Ayton at the 4. I know we mentioned that before, that Ayton want to play the 4. But anyways, you have Giles, you have Scale, and Ayton as your 4-5 mix. Then at 3, that just slots in either Bojan if you go Bogdanovic if you go small ball, or that slots in Justin Jackson, who you just took in the lottery last year, or a little bit late lottery. Then at 2, that puts Bogdanovic or Buddy Hield again if you're going small ball. And then at the 1, you have De'Aaron Fox. So, I mean, you're drafting, and then if you don't go Ayton, you have still Willie Cauley-Stein, who's still young at the 5. Then at the 4, you have Scale and Harry Giles. At the 3, you take Michael Porter Jr., or if Luka Doncic is on the board like me, you slot him at the 3. Then at 2, you have Bogdanovic, and at the 1, you have De'Aaron Fox. You have the ability to solidify your starting 5 right now. Do it. You're not going to have a chance next year, like you mentioned, or like you mentioned. So I understand that maybe you want to load up again, but again, this is still a young team. Go and get the player now. Go and let this team bond and melt. Don't push the timeline further back.
Yeah, we've really loved this team. Like the last couple of drafts for them, we've really been enthusiastic outside of Papa John's. I think this has been one of our favorite teams coming out of the draft.
That was such a bad pick.
It was such a bad pick. It didn't set them back too far, just a wee bit.
No, but if they flip Scale at 13 and 28 and they pick Papianas at 28, then whatever. Oh.
No problem. My point being that I don't think that it will be shaken out by the time of the draft, Ricky. Like you said, I don't think we'll have our answers by that time. I don't think you'll know what the Hawks are doing 100% until draft night. I think you could see draft night trades for Dennis. I don't think that you'll see anything until that time. So you can't bet on them doing a trade down, knowing other teams' information because going into the draft, there's so much misinformation. Last year, I think, was a unique case where the Lakers were so far out in front of everybody, being like, Lonzo's our pick. There's not even a question about it. Yeah. We've got a month and a half to go to the draft. Doesn't matter.
Plus, you had LeVar kind of saying all that stuff, so that didn't help.
It was the Lakers said it, so it didn't matter.
The stars were always aligned for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in this case, you're not going to get that clarity. You're not going to get that situation. That's why I agree with Sean. You take the guy who you believe has the best chance of succeeding.
And here's the other thing that plays into it, too, is... Yeah, you want, I know it's not like, we're going to take whoever we take, DeAndre Ayton, Luka Doncic, whatever, and be a playoff team. But the kind of chess move you got to make in the West is, are you going to be able to build this team up to be that, what you expect, a championship caliber, by the time the Warriors are past their prime, The Rockets are past their prime because,
their timeline's 3 years, 3 to 4, 5 years to become that team.
Fine.
The Warriors are going to be gone by then. The Rockets are going to be gone by then. Steph's going to be old and battered.
Yeah,
KD might not be on that team anymore. Clay, we talked about him possibly wanting to take a smaller contract, but if Clay is the healthiest one and the best one on that team, that's not the same Warriors. I mean, this
I
team's
think
going
this
to be
window
in cap
lines
hell.
up well for the Kings.
Exactly.
You see all the teams that are on the top now. I don't expect a Spurs-like run where these teams just stay up there forever now.
They're going to be worrying about the Lakers. Like, they're going to be worrying about different teams, the Nuggets, the Lakers. They're going to be worrying about, young teams that they're going up
against. Could you
against.
imagine if we had a Lakers-Kings Western Conference Finals like we did back in the day?
2002, where
that was the one
completely
where the
rigged.
Kings got screwed.
Yeah, but let's go into them actually having the pick, because I don't think they should trade it at all. I don't think that should be on the table. And another thing, too, if they do trade for a pick next year, the lotto's the lotto's changing next year. 2019, the odds completely shift. You're not going to have the chance again to pick number 2 as high as you possibly are.
Yeah, they don't have their own pick, though. So
No, but even then, if you pick, Ricky's saying if you
you
move
go
with Memphis, you get another pick. I mean,
the thing is, why do you think Memphis would be a lottery team next year? They've got a top pick this year. They've got 2 all-star-esque players.
I'm not saying necessarily a
All-star-esque.
lottery pick. I'm just saying, like, with
another first rounder.
Yeah,
but you already have
Brooklyn.
a 2.
When Brooklyn traded theirs, I'm like, shit, we got to get back in the first round when they got Karis LeVert.
But that was like a 22nd. Like,
I
the
know.
thing is like you're
Yeah.
trading.
But if
you're trading a 5 and 22 for the second overall pick. Just take the guy that you want at 22.
But if you could,
22 is not going to be a game changer. The last time you picked 22 was Malachi Richardson. He's not even on your team anymore.
And all I'm saying with it, if you could get that same guy you wanted 2 picks later and get assets for it.
Did you watch draft day before showing
But
up?
it's not.
No,
it's
I
not
watched the draft lottery
it's,
before showing
It's
up.
not locked in that they are going to be getting the
I
guy that
know.
they want. Just take him at 2. That's my
Yeah.
thoughts. Anyways, we don't really need to go too much in the pick. I mean, we're
It's
going
DeAndre Ayton for me.
We're going BPA. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
right
So,
now we have this basically, the draft is broken into a couple tiers. Tier 1 is clearly for us Ayton and Doncic. It's those 2 guys have set themselves above everyone else. There's a bar there. I don't think that, honestly, we're going to see anybody make the jump above them. So I think you get 1 at 1, the other one falls at 2. It doesn't matter which way goes which.
Well, the thing for the Kings too, if it doesn't matter where they go, because at the 5 you're getting the 5 or the 4 really, because I mean you can have fluidity between the positions, whether it's Scale, Harry Giles, Willie Cauley-Stein, and as well as Ayton. It doesn't really matter because he fits a need.
Yeah.
Because Luka will fill in that 3 spot. And you can move and give fluidity to that, the at least the 1, 2, and 3 defensively.
Yes.
Because we've seen De'Aaron Fox be an absolute monster defensively. Bogdanovich ain't too bad defensively
No,
either.
he's not.
And then Luka at least will be able to at least bring length to that
and
team
then
as
your
well.
bench with Wooden Award Hill and Frank Mason. Like,
And Justin
some
Jackson as
respect
well.
on
Justin
it,
Jackson,
Dave.
you have a good core at the 1 through 3. I really believe that if Luka lands there, that team is set up for success moving forward. And I'm believing the hype on Harry. All of this stuff about him working out, all this stuff about him looking smooth, fluid, more physically built up and structurally sound. I think this way would work out well for them. Would they be sad if Ayton fell them? No. I'm sure they'd be wiping their tears with money. Like, it's okay.
They're winning at either way.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
congratulations, Kings. You've basically got the chance to win the NBA draft because of this ping pong ball.
And weirdly enough, I think Ayton fits better for the Kings too, compared to Luka. I think Luka fits better for the Suns, and I think Ayton fits better for the Kings. And luckily,
But
it falls
fit
out
be
that
damned.
way. Fit be damned, and I don't even have it happening out that way. I have Ayton going 1 and Luka going 2. But anyways, let us know who you think the Kings will end up going with. Will they go with Michael Porter Jr. if he has a good combine? We'll see in the next tomorrow. I think it officially starts on the 17th and 18th. They're going to be broadcasting the drills. I think tomorrow is mostly measurements or at least interviews. And then the 17th and 18th is going to be the real meat and potatoes of the combine. So we'll see if Michael Porter Jr. puts his name in there. DeAndre Ayton, Luka Doncic not going to be at that combine. So it's going to be interesting to see where these guys put themselves.
You can go watch Luka play, though.
Yeah,
and that's the difference.
If you're a Kings fan, let us know in the comments down below who the Kings should be going with and who you think the Suns are going to take in front of you and why Ayton or Doncic or hell Bagley jumps up for you too. But let's move now to the Atlanta Hawks. They're the lucky ones. The Grizzlies are not lucky. They fall to the 4th pick. The Hawks jump in at number 3. We talked about him a little bit. Dennis Schroeder on following the Hawks on Instagram, deleting all of his posts, but I believe 1 on Instagram. And then there's an ESPN article saying that he wants to play for a team that's not second to last in the Eastern Conference, I think it was, or second to last in the NBA. He just said something along the lines of he doesn't want to play for a shit team. So Schroeder is unhappy at your point guard, 24-year-old. has been there for a while. Also has been playing under Bud. Bud no longer there. And then you have guys like Taurean Prince, who they drafted recently, John Collins, they drafted recently. So there are players on this Hawks team, but there is a lot of openness, at least in their starting lineup, to go out and draft a star. We've seen Collins be good. We've seen Prince be good, but they still need that star, even with Schroeder on this team. So how are you addressing that situation, Ricky, whether Schroeder is there or not?
With me, I am for sure trading Dennis Schroeder. Like, for me, I say, okay, you want off the team? I can't guarantee it's going to be to the Pacers or the Bucks. It's going to be to whichever team, like whatever package benefits us the most.
Well, yeah.
But I am trading him, and with that third pick, I am then going Trae Young of Oklahoma. And the reason for that is I am taking at 3. Now, the Michael Porter thing plays into it because depending on the combine and if the Kings don't go at him, he could be the pick here too.
So basically 2 through question mark is the Porter watch.
I'm either going at this
Hell,
point.
even one could be.
I'm either going with Trae Young or Michael Porter here because those are the two guys at this point that I can build around for the future and get, okay, here's piece 1. Next draft, I get piece 2 and start that Jerry West-like draft when he did it for the Warriors of like, okay, this is the first piece, this is the next piece, and just nail my picks in the draft and get that number 1 star this year.
So, Dave, he's kind of going along the star mentality. He's also thinking Schroeder's going to be going. Are you thinking Schroeder is definitely going to be moved? Because he said he doesn't want to spend his prime on a team again. He's only 24 years old, so he's technically
NBA
not in his prime
is
yet.
anywhere from 24. Like
That's
I know
true.
the prime physically is 27, but with NBA, the way players develop, 24 is just about there.
Well, and he's been in the league
Kyrie
for a while,
Irving
too.
is 24, 25, right? I mean,
Yeah.
prime. Like
25.
it's just I think that's reasonable. I don't know that Dennis will be on this team, but I know that you can get a decent return, whether it's pick or whether it's a reasonable return, and then you can go in free agency because this team does have money to spend. So it's not like they have to be cellar dwellers again. I'm going with Marvin Bagley here because I think that him and John Collins together gives you one of the best front courts in the NBA as far as young talent moving forward. Like, what Bagley can do offensively is disgusting. John Collins is athletic as hell. He can make up for some of the shortcomings from Bagley. And I think the pair of them together is going to be a handful for teams for a while to come. I think Bagley at the 4, I know small ball 5-4, whatever they're going to end up with. The point being, I think he is someone who you can have as your offensive number 1 weapon. I think that he commands the ball. He has good dribbling skills down low. He needs to keep his eyes open out of the low post. But outside of that, like, you are gifted one of the better offensive players. You need to work on his defensive skills, but the motor's there. It's not a lack of motivation. It's something, can you teach defense? And a lot of this comes into who comes in as the coaching replacement, wherever they go direction-wise there.
Well, they went with Lloyd Pierce, who was a former assistant for the Philadelphia 76ers, was there from 2013 to 2018, then before that, 2011 to 2013 with Memphis under Lionel Hollins, and then he also was coordinator for player development with the Cavs from 2007 to 2010, and before he was with Santa Clara, 2003, 2007, his alma mater. So I'm on his Wikipedia page right now, so that's the reason why I know that background. But yeah, Lloyd Pierce is their new head coach. They just hired him recently.
Nice. So yeah, I think that as long as you can teach him some defense, like, you are in an awesome position. And I think he can be an offensive 1 in this league. So, I mean, sue me. I said, you can't build around a 5. I don't know that he's necessarily the guy, but he's someone who can score in bunches. He's someone who demands someone on him at all times. So he's going to pull guys in around him. Like I said, if you build up his passing IQ, you could really have something special.
Well, and how we even talked about him possibly being a 4 too. I mean, you mentioned small ball center too. But I mean,
him and John Collins are going to be both down there.
And they'd be 4 or 5, duo down there, and it's going to be interesting. I have him going Bagley as well. I mean, we talked about star, at least, potential. Bagley, like Dave mentioned, I mean, he's got the motor, he's got the scoring ability, he's got the want to be a great player. Defense is a problem, but this kid's also still young. And I know we mentioned this with DeAndre Ayton, where Ayton can't play defense. It's a big factor with bust, but you're taking a guy number 1 overall at number 3, and hell, maybe he turns into a thinner Ja because he's got this offensive game. But again, we're talking about a motor, and the big problem with Ja was the lack of a motor, the lack of motivation. Bagley has proven that he has at least the motor to at least kick some ass. So I think that's a big thing for Marvin Bagley. And then also, again, you mentioned the John Collins and the Marvin Bagley fit. I mean, that's going to be a dynamic duo for the years to come down low. And I think they probably end up keeping Schroeder because it's not a pushing need, a pressing need that they need to get rid of him. And he's going to meet with the owner soon. He's going to meet with him on the direction of the team. And now having the 3rd overall pick will also help them be like, hey, this is what we're going to do with the 3rd overall pick, or at least this is what we're planning out. This is how we're going to take the direction to build around you and at least give you some weapons around you, like Marvin Bagley. And I think having 2 guys in John Collins, Marvin Bagley, playing off of Taurean Prince, who's so far a great 3-and-D wing, or at least has the potential to be a great 3-and-D wing, and then also Dennis Schroeder, who so far has been a good scorer and also has the ability to pass a little bit. I think that this team, at least you have 4 starters, and you need that extra little bit of a push to put you over the edge. I think that the Atlanta Hawks, I think they would be sorely mistaken not to go with Marvin Bagley.
If they're going to keep Dennis Schroeder, then Bagley would have been my pick here. But the way I see this playing out, and I'll go prediction mode, is basically he's going to meet with the team already by naming teams, and then directly after that, kind of throwing a little slight at the Hawks, like, well, those teams are headed in the right direction. I think this is going to be.
You mentioned the Bucks, right?
Yeah, the Bucks.
Because guess who's interviewing with the Bucks?
Budenholzer. But I think that how this is going to play out is Dennis Schroeder is going to already have his mind made up, and he wants out of town. And their hand might be forced to be made because it's like, well, do we keep him around where he could be a cancer in this locker room because he doesn't want to be here, or do we trade him for something?
Well, that's his fault. He just signed a fucking contract extension. That's your fault.
Oh, I know.
But again, he doesn't have any say in where he goes. He doesn't have a no trade clause.
Oh, I know.
He doesn't have anything to.
And that's what I said.
If
if I'm the Hawks trading him, it ain't going to be to where you want. It's where I'm going to get the best for you.
No, but even then, I'm just saying, like, he also doesn't have a say where he needs to go. I mean, I'm sorry.
If I don't get a good enough deal, then sorry, you're stuck here.
2017, 2018, he's got $15.5 million from 2017, 2018, all the way to 2021, where he'll be an unrestricted free agent. So I mean, he has no say in if he wants to go or not. So that's the biggest thing is Dennis Schroeder can't really force his hand. You're gonna have to buy into the system if they want to keep you around. That's the whole deal. Dennis Schroeder, you signed back in whatever it was. You re-upped, and that's your fault. I mean, you shouldn't have re-upped if you didn't believe in the future of this situation. I guess he was also an RFA at the point as well. But still, I mean, if it doesn't matter what he says, he's got to quit being an immature player and go along with the contract that you signed. I mean, that's the whole bargain. Sorry, this isn't a players' league. Buy into the fucking team.
But it is a players' league.
It is the most players' league.
But Dennis Schroeder isn't the player that's going to be demanding and moving the market.
No, but I mean, if you have
LeBron
who's
James, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony will be. That's his fault, though. I mean, like, he's tanking his own value there and not wanting to play. He's making his own mistake, and nobody's going to pay a guy who's making $15.5 million who's going to be throwing a tantrum. This is a team, this is a league that's going to be next year.
And he's asking for playoff spots.
Yeah, and in this offseason as well, they're not going to be handing out $15.5 million contracts to players like Dennis Schroeder. Like, I mean, you look at a guy like Lou Will who's making $8 million over the next 3 years. I mean, that was a guy that averaged near 20 points per game. Guys like Dennis Schroeder isn't going to be making $15.5 million per season. Maybe just because he was young, and that's why he got the contract. But again, I mean, it's something with Schroeder is you're signed and locked into this contract. You're going to have to buy in and play the system. I don't think he's moving just because he throws a hissy fit. Dennis Schroeder's not moving the needle like a guy like Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James.
I don't think it's necessarily going to be a hissy fit, but I think they will work something out to get him
How is this not a hissy fit? I want to be on a better team. You signed the contract, buddy.
He threw a little slight at them with that comment, but I don't think it's him throwing a hissy fit.
I think the other thing is
deleting all of his posts on Instagram, unfollowing on Twitter. That's pettiness right there.
Julio Jones and Jordan Howard. That's what you said.
But that was different. I'm saying.
Thing.
Well, no, because I said that stuff before I read the article about him actually going out and bashing the team. Julio Jones did that because he didn't say anything publicly. He just did that because he was revamping his social media. Same with Jordan Howard.
I think this is going to be where they have their talk and they come to an agreement that, you know what, it is better if we split ways and we will find a place for you. I can't guarantee it'll be one of these two teams, but I will try to get you out of town.
Why?
They also have other assets to move with him. They have two later picks in this first round, so I mean, it's not like they're short. They're not strapped for cash
to try to move up in the draft. Maybe
they can move assets. They have a ton of cap room, so they're a team who could make a splash. That's all I'm saying.
What are we thinking splash, though?
Now, here's one in my head.
Real quick, though. Okay. Now, if we're saying making a splash, pairing a guy like Dennis Schroeder, even though he's not going to be moved to the Pacers or Bucks, that doesn't matter because, again, he doesn't have a no-trade clause, so he doesn't really dictate where he goes.
Yeah.
But, now if we're talking making a splash, then I'm more interested. If we're just saying trade Dennis Schroeder because he's upset.
If he's angry and he's like, I want to compete for the playoffs again, you're in the East. Let's be honest. It's not hard to get back to the playoffs in the East. So say they do go, like we said, with a Marvin Bagley there. Then they go, okay, let's replace our two. You could go KCP, Avery Bradley, Hazonia, Tyreek Evans. If you get him a sexy offer, he might walk away from Memphis. Like, there's guys out there. Zach LaVine, no one knows what the offer will be from the Bulls side. So if you want to be a jerk, and you can Brooklyn Nets them and just toss out a death contract and be like, hey, eat it or else. I mean, there are names to fill in this roster with. They have money, so you're not locked into saying, we're not a playoff team, we're going to rebuild for the next 2 years and waste your prime.
I'm going to throw it out right now, and I don't know the main parts of this deal, but they could do this. I've the whole time been thinking a Schroeder for Kemba, because the Hornets then get a point guard that's locked down. Kemba could, with the Hawks, it's whatever. We get Kemba for a year, and the Hawks with their cap might be like, okay, fine, Hornets, we'll take one of your bad contracts.
Yeah, you take Nick Batum.
Yeah, we'll take one of your bad contracts because we can, and we get Kemba Walker and could maybe lock him down.
But so are they getting the 11th pick then?
I don't know how the picks would go.
Because that's the thing is, if you're going to move Dennis Schroeder, I'm talking about making a splash, and you need to get younger players.
I'm assuming what I would do is, so the Hawks would give up Schroeder, the 19th and the 30th, and they would take, and then the Hornets would give up Walker, Batum, and the 11th.
For Dennis Schroeder, the 19th and 30th.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a thing where, you're unloading contract there. But, is Charlotte going to be a place where Dennis Schroeder's happy? Like, that's something where, again...
Doesn't matter. I'm trading him where I get the best in return.
I'm saying in the Hornets. As I'm the Hornets, why am I going to give up on the 11th pick where we have him taking a point guard in Colin Sexton?
Because I get a point guard my prime...
But a guy that wants to be in a certain spot and is clearly not happy. So if he's going to be in a spot where, hey, the Charlotte Hornets aren't looking to contend anytime soon,
who knows? Then it's Charlotte.
They were only 2 spots out of the playoffs. I know. That was 8 games.
But that was also with Kemba Walker. That was with Nick Batum. Now you're getting rid of those 2 players and you're bringing in Dennis Schroeder.
Maybe Dennis Schroeder thinks he's the guy.
As Mitch Kupchak.
Yeah.
But he's not the guy. He hasn't proven that he's better than Kemba Walker. So it's a downgrade there. That's what I'm saying. As the Hornets, is he going to be happy on our Hornets team, or is he just going to be our problem now for the next 4 years?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Lots of questions.
I'm just trying to think, just because it works out in our mind, hey, this is a team with cap, we can ship Kemba Walker over. But I'm just saying, as the Hornets, why would they want to do that if, Dennis Schroeder won't be happy on the Hornets and he's not very happy with the Hawks? That's all I'm saying. Again, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Bagley, though, is a pick for me. Bagley's a pick for Dave, and then Ricky has them going with Trae Young. Let's move now to the Grizzlies, who did get screwed at 4. I have them going with Jaren Jackson. Ricky has them going with Marvin Bagley III. And Dave has them going with Jaren Jackson. Dave, we're thinking...
We're the same for like 7.
Very similar so far. But we have them going, again, bigs here, forward positions that are going to be playing the 4. Ricky, you have them going Marvin Bagley over Jaren Jackson, who's still on your board. Why do you have Bagley over Jackson?
To me, it comes down to just who I've got ranked higher on my big man, for where... They really don't need a guy like Mo Bamba because they got Marc Gasol. And with Bagley, Dave talked about it with, I believe it was the Kings, or no, the Hawks, but we can pair him with John Collins. Well, with the Grizzlies, I'm going to pair Marvin Bagley with Marc Gasol and just have those 2 bigs down low. I don't really have to reach for like a Michael Porter Jr. at this point or get a Mo Bamba. And I'm just going to take the best big to fit at the 4 and pair, hoping that Parsons comes back healthy, Conley is healthy, and that this team adds a top 5 talent and makes a playoff run next year.
Someone who doesn't play defense on the Grizzlies is just a little confusing, because that team has been, they were the grit and grind. I know the grit and grind days are gone, gone, unfortunately, but I still feel
you can't take that for data anymore.
I still feel like that team would love to emphasize having a 4 and interchangeable to the 5 whenever they need to. Jaren Jackson Jr., maybe a transitional guy at the end of Marc Gasol's career, because Jaren can stretch out the floor. He's fundamentally sound. He plays tough physical defense. It's everything. That pick to me screams Memphis Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson just seems like the guy could write in and be like, you could show it to anybody, like, Yeah, he looks like he could be a Memphis Grizzly.
But the question I would ask, and I mean, in yours it's easy because Marvin Bagley's already off the board. But if, let's say I'm putting you in my situation, Bagley and Jaren Jackson are both there,
available?
would you still take Jackson over Bagley?
See, I'm going to jump in there because I was just about to throw that out there as well. I would be taking Marvin Bagley in this situation if I was Memphis, if those two players are both on the board. Again, I just had Marvin Bagley going to the Atlanta Hawks because, again, we look at Marc Gasol and what he brings. Marc Gasol, even though he's still not at that level anymore, he was the defensive player of the year. He's still good defensively. Mike Conley's good defensively. They need that game-changing scorer. In my mind, they don't have that on their team right now. I know Marc Gasol can put up near 20 points, 23 per game, but again, this is an aging Marc Gasol, and he's still a great passer and will continue to be a great passer. And Mike Conley, again, he'll be good for 16 to 19 points per game a season. Marvin Bagley has that top end of possibly putting up, maybe 25 points per game. We don't really know, but again, what he's shown so far, he has the ability, especially with two great veterans around him, to possibly put up 25 points per game. So I think that's the big thing with me is you already have two guys who are good defensively in Marc Gasol, in Mike Conley. Pair some dynamic offense with them in Marvin Bagley. So I think that's going to be something big. But Dave, I mean, let's look at the Jaren Jackson fit. Why would you go Jaren Jackson over Marvin Bagley?
So I would take Jaren Jackson over Bagley because for me, I already said, screams Memphis Grizzly, but when I look at Jaren Jackson, it's the defensive toughness and it's the ability to stretch the floor out. He has no flaws in his game outside of his potential overaggression on defense. He's a guy who we haven't seen get full minutes in a game consistently. He's been used sparingly, and whether that's because of his foul trouble or whether that's because it was the system that he played in, I'm very interested to see him in a expanding role where the team can look to him more. And guess what? It doesn't have to be right away because he has guys like Mike Conley, like Marc Gasol, and potentially Tyreek Evans if he decides to come back. So you're not in a position where you have to come in day one and drop 20. You're in a spot where if you're lethal from the outside, stretching the floor, and then providing another defensive big who can help run the floor,
Well,
that's good.
One thing, too, is, we look at both these players coming from blue blood college basketball programs, Bagley from Duke and Jackson from Tom Izzo's Spartans. We've seen that before, but even Jackson wasn't a number one. He was only playing around 20 minutes per game when he was playing for the Spartans. That was because of his foul trouble. That was also just because of how deep that team was, where you look at Marvin Bagley. Marvin Bagley was the guy where they already had Grayson Allen, who was a senior. They had 4 freshmen there in Wendell Carter Jr., Bagley, Duval, and then I'm blanking on the other guy's name.
Gary Trent Jr.
Gary Trent Jr.
One you always forget.
Yeah, he was the number one guy. And Trent's probably the better out of him and Duval. But again, Marvin Bagley was the guy. So that's one thing where that does differentiate you. Will Jackson be able to show that he's the guy at any point? I know you're saying that he won't need to do that right away, but at any point will he ever be able to show that in his NBA career, or will he be capped out as a guy who's going to be playing well off ball? He's going to be a good defensive player, but will he be able to expand his role
versus someone who could be in the maybe bottom end of Blake Griffin range? Like, which would you rather have going forward? That's my question. Like, if you end up with a cheap Blake Griffin versus elite role player at the 4-5, I don't know. I think it's up for a question because
Bagley is a better shooter than Blake. Blake, at least, so far. Bagley,
not statistically.
Well, no, I'm saying Bagley right now. Bagley's better than Blake coming out of college shooting wise.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm saying, at least where they were in their college. It took Blake fucking 10 years now, 9 years to develop a jump shot.
Yeah, but his outside shot, has grown, but still, his bread and butter was that low post coming out, and man, he rolled with it.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's just. I see the only reason I dump back to Blake is because it's a smooth big man with good post moves, with good athleticism, with a high motor. So like that's I don't really think that I'm going too much further than that, to be honest. But I see Triple J as somebody who can roll as a elite role player at the 4-5, be a defensive stopper, guy who stretches the floor, guy who probably will never. And this is the thing, I don't know that he'll ever get a max contract. I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing, though. If you're drafting here, if you go for someone like Marvin Bagley who can ball out but has so many deficiencies defensively where you're hamstrung by that player and by that player's contract, like you roll into a bad position. But a guy like Triple J will always be useful. Always going to be a need for a big who can play elite defense, who can stretch the floor and shoot at a good percentage. So, I don't know. I think it comes down to, like, what you value really as far as the NBA draft is concerned.
Ricky, any final thoughts on the Memphis Grizzlies pick?
I mean, for me, it's the next two are going to be real easy, like if de facto picks for me. And this was one just like, you know what? Based off of what happened above, take the best big. He can pair next to Marc Gasol, move right along.
And you think that best big is Marvin Bagley?
Yeah, it's Marvin Bagley over Jaren Jackson. I mean, Mo Bamba would be...
I was waiting for Mo Bamba early.
I would have him...
Here's number 2 big, isn't he?
But he doesn't fit... I don't think there's any team besides, like, the Kings taking Ayton that were like, yeah, we need a center, except for the team we're going to talk about next.
All right. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Michael Porter Jr., too, because Michael Porter Jr., again, could be a spot here where he could end up going for Memphis.
2 through 7's the range.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Michael Porter Jr., especially how he performs at that combine. I mean, how you can even throw the 1 in there, because I talked about him being my favorite prospect before he got injured. I still think that, again, if he's healthy, he might still be my favorite prospect. So that's going to be absolutely big to see what happens with Michael Porter Jr. If he is healthy and he falls to Memphis at 4, this could be prime Michael Porter Jr. spot, because, again, while they did have Reek, while they do have Chandler Parsons, I mean, Parsons is never healthy. Reek might not be on this team after this year, and we'll see what happens in the offseason. They can get a guy at that 3 or the 4 spot. Again, if Porter is a 4 in the NBA, that could be a true star. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Grizzlies at 4. Let's move now to the Dallas Mavericks at 5, and it is Mo Bamba across the board. We talked about this when who the best prospect fit is for the Dallas Mavericks.
1 through 5 was Mo Bamba, according to Sean.
If they're 1, they're taking Mo Bamba. If they're 3, they're taking Mo Bamba. If they're 5, they're taking Mo Bamba. They are now locked in at that 5 position, and I am not afraid for them taking Mo Bamba at that spot. We talk about Mo Bamba a ton on this podcast. 7'6" wingspan, has the ability to become an elite defender in the NBA, and now we see him working on his jump shot. Even at the end of college, we saw him hit a couple threes. Now he's actually refining his shot from more of a trebuchet slot to a traditional catch and shoot shot. So this is a guy, Mo Bamba, that is very, very raw, but has the at least the measurables at that 7'6" wingspan, clocking in around 7 feet tall, has a decent athleticism, has a very raw game, but a guy like Rick Carlisle could develop this guy into an NBA star. I think it's clear as day Mo Bamba's the pick.
Well, and not just that, one of the biggest things I know that people are asking, we're asking them before the draft lottery, like, oh, what would it mean to go to New York, go back home? This to me is a slam dunk as well. Played in Texas, in Austin. You know what? He's going to go to Dallas. This is a guy then that the fans can kind of wrap themselves around. Like living in anywhere in Texas, you probably knew who Mo Bamba was or had a good idea of who he was. And now he's going to be playing for one of your teams in Texas in the Dallas Mavericks.
And a fun thing, too, Dave, I mean, you got Dirk and Mo Bamba. As long as Dirk will be playing there, he's coming back for another season.
He's never retired.
You're going to have Mo Bamba at the 5, Dirk at the 4, Harrison Barnes at the 3, DSJ at the 1, Wes Matthews Jr. at the 2. I mean, it's going to be an interesting lineup to see how Bamba pairs with Dennis Smith Jr., with Dirk Nowitzki. How much do you think those players like DSJ, Dirk, how much do you think Mo Bamba will be able to gel with these guys?
I think it's going to be really, really great fit for him because he's coming into an organization that has treated their players so well over time. This is a team that won a championship around Dirk and a bunch of veterans basically who have been role players and traveling along the league. And it's been a good story for Dallas. I know they've got their front office troubles right now, and that's a whole nother story. But as far as the players are concerned, it's nothing but positive experiences with them on that team. The only guy staying out is Nerlens Noel. Like, he's obviously his own situation. So with that being said, I think as long as they clear him away from the team before Mo shows up, they're in good shape because you pair Mo Bamba on that team and you look at the guys around him who he can talk to, who he can work with, who can help shape his game. There's no better big to learn to shoot from than Dirk Nowitzki.
I do want to throw this out there, though. We did see a clash between Rajon Rondo and Rick Carlisle as well, and then also, obviously, Nerlens not really picking up his slack before.
Rondo, I forgot about the whole, I'm smarter than the coach thing.
Yeah, but that's also because Rondo just went on a complete image repair where now he's playoff Rondo, and it's just an absolute different guy.
He just hated Dallas because he's smarter than Rick Carlisle.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like,
or it was dealing with D Wade and Jimmy. That's like, oh my God, is that what I was like?
No, I'm just saying we're again, like,
you're right.
We thought Rajon Rondo was done.
Well, you might have, I didn't.
Got traded to Boston. The large narrative coming out of Dallas, you fucking ass.
All of Dallas still thinks Rondo's a bum. That's all you need to know. But they're a bunch of salty fans about
it. A ton of people were just saying he was traded for a reason because, I mean, like, people didn't think he was the same Rondo anymore. So everyone was like, oh, Boston got rid of Rondo. You didn't think he was going to be that great anymore. We'll see if Dallas can fix him. And then he didn't work on Dallas. And then he went to Sacramento.
I think it was the fact that the Celtics were reloading at the time.
Okay.
They knew I'm sorry. You're selling a narrative that I just don't believe, Sean.
All right. Well, I'm just saying the majority of people that I talked to believe that the narrative was
You
that
were also
when he
12
went
at the time.
when he went to it's not true. When he went to Sacramento, I think I was doing this podcast at the time. He goes to Sacramento and works with
3
Boogie.
years ago.
Works with Boogie.
4 years.
Drops like 15 assists per game.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, maybe this is going to be the actual time that Rondo turns around. He goes to Chicago. Obviously, playoff Rondo comes back, and then we saw what he did with New Orleans. I mean, that was just another player that did not gel.
Yeah, so we
in
got
that
two.
Dallas.
We got two.
In that Dallas resume. But outside of that, I mean, we see that every other player has pretty much worked out for Dallas. And again, I think Mo Bamba has the motivation. He's talked about being a great player before, which is away from Nerlens Noel and Rajon Rondo. Even though, again, Rondo was a different thing. He thought he was smarter than everybody else. I don't think we get that vibe from Mo Bamba.
No.
And again, he's working on his
super
shot.
humble.
And he's got to me, his ceiling is he can develop into the best big in this draft 5-10 years down the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we all can see that. But again, it's going to be a long way for that to happen, right, Dave?
That would be a very narrow percentage, but yes, it's possible. I'll agree to that.
I mean, we talk about this kid possibly being Joel Embiid. That's why we throw that out there.
That's exactly what I'm seeing.
Where we talk about, we look at at least similarities stat-wise and everything, similar body, very lanky. I know, different players, but again, you look at the stat lines, you look at the similarities, at least body-wise. They have the ability to turn into the same players. It depends on the work that Mo Bamba's going to put in. But even then, I mean, DeAndre Ayton, we talk about his deficiencies defensively. We look at Marvin Bagley, we talk about his deficiencies defensively. Jaren Jackson, we talk about his at least ceiling. Where is it going to cap out at? Mo Bamba has that high ceiling, has at least shown both sides, at least offensively and defensively. And we talk about him having the right mindset. I think that's the reason why his ceiling is high. Is it a small percentage? Yes, because there's 3 guys being drafted already in our mock drafts going above him. Well, at least not Ricky because he doesn't have Jaren Jackson off the board yet. But at least our mock draft, Dave, we have Jaren Jackson, Marvin Bagley, and DeAndre Ayton going ahead of him. But again, we talk about the reasons why Mo Bamba has the ability to become better than those players. Again, the motor showing both sides, and also his at least measurables. He has the ability to turn into the best big man in this draft. I think he's going to pair well, at least in that system. Dennis Smith Jr. and him running pick and rolls. If he has the ability to actually show that pick and pop, they can work Dirk down low, and we see, obviously Dirk's turnaround jumper from the low block. They can even switch that if they want. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they develop. And you also still have a dangerous scorer in Harrison Barnes. You have a good outside shooter in Wesley Matthews Jr., so it's going to be an interesting fit for Rick Carlisle, Mark Cuban, and the Dallas Mavericks if they end up going with Mo Bamba at 5. Now, let's go to our favorite team, the Orlando Magic at 6. I have him going with Trae Young. Ricky, you have him going Colin Sexton. I think this is the highest Colin Sexton has gone in any mock draft this year. And then Dave has them, shockingly, going with Trae Young. So a normal spot for Trae Young for Dave Oster.
Get comfy there, Trae Young.
At the Magic. Dave, you came in, brimming, cheek to cheek. With a smile, talking about Trae Young going to Orlando. Why is it a perfect fit in your mind?
Orlando gets what they most desperately need, which is a potential superstar. They get a kid who has shown that he has everything it takes to be an NBA stud. He has an amazing three-point shot, great range. He's good with talking to the media. He has the right attitude. He not once has complained about the lack of teammates as much as everyone in the media says he's a one-man team. He's playing 1v9 out there. He has never said a bad thing about his team. He's only been positive about the experience. And even when we look into the advanced stats about after the second half of the year, him being double-teamed on some crazy percentage of the plays. Like
40%.
40%. I mean, it's freaking crazy.
Take him out of the game. They didn't have anyone else.
That's the thing. Like, there are so many positive for that. And yes, for like half the year, this kid could be a 1-3 pick. The only reason he fell was because of his stats dropping because teams adjusted to him. Mm-hmm. When you go to the NBA, it's not as easy to single off a player. The level of competition is so much closer in the NBA than it is in college, where it's just such a widespread. You've got soon-to-be professional athletes playing alongside guys who are soon-to-be like lawyers or businessmen or whatever. Like it's just not even close level competition. So I see Trae Young and the Magic as the ideal fit because they get the guy who can run their offense for the future. They get a guy who can shoot lights out from the outside, and literally anywhere inside of half court, he's going to pull the trigger on it. So now you give him some weapons in Aaron Gordon, a developing Jonathan Isaac. And honestly, like, Vucevic can still score really well. That's never been his problem. And Fournier has been a knockdown shooter his entire career.
Yeah, Fournier consistently putting up near 17 points per game. We see the development in Eric Gordon, his athleticism. Jonathan Isaac having the ability defensively to flex.
If he can muscle up a little bit, he could be something good. Yeah.
Still a very young player as well. And you talked about his usage. Trae Young, third all-time since they have been counting usage, at least from Sports Reference college basketball site, since 2009-2010, as the third highest usage, the third most points with a 37 usage or higher. Jimmer Fredette, Chris Clemens above him. And you look at the names in that top 15 that are in there, the only other pro in that ranking is C.J. McCollum from Lehigh at 12. But again, even then, in that year, he only played, C.J. only played 12 games, put up 34, not 34 points per game. At least in that game, though, in that season, I'm sorry, played 12 games, put up 287 points. I don't know what that averages out to, but ridiculous numbers there from C.J. McCollum. So we really haven't seen a pro with that level usage in college, especially from a big-time program like Oklahoma, Ricky, at least transition in the NBA outside of C.J. McCollum. So does that worry you, or is it just the fact that he's at Oklahoma getting that much usage that's actually a positive?
No, I've never been on the train of, oh my God, that is a problem. It was just Oklahoma had a very special player. They had nobody else on that team that could come close to him. They were going to live and die by Trae Young most of last year. And I mean, for the Magic, I'll be honest, like, this is either an I'm sorry moment or a you're welcome moment from me. Because if you liked that we've had Trae Young go to the Magic the whole time, then I'm sorry I don't have him going there. Or if you hated it, you're welcome. But I mean, the thing that we can all agree on, and we do with it, is point guard is, to me, the biggest need position on this team. Because the way I looked at it, of course, you guys had Jaren Jackson already off the board, but for me, it's Porter, it's Jackson, it's Sexton. Those are the three guys I'm looking at. And I mean, with Jaren Jackson, Aaron Gordon, I expect to be back. I don't know if Mo of House Buckets will be back, but maybe he does. They do re-sign him this offseason. Jaren Jackson, I kind of push to the side. It comes down Sexton or Porter. And with the questions right now with Porter, he can answer those in the combine. I had Sexton jump up because, like, you know what? This is almost like a Sacramento Kings taking De'Aaron Fox type of pick for me, where it's like, I'm not happy with DJ Augustine. I need somebody that can handle the ball, be my point guard, or point forward if you're going to take Michael Porter Jr. That's why I had him going Colin Sexton. They need somebody that can run this offense and bring the ball up for them.
I'm confused by the Sacramento Kings reference in that one.
Well, because I've always said that Colin Sexton in this draft has been closer to De'Aaron Fox, the guy who is more of the driver compared to the shooter, whereas Trae Young has been more like Lonzo Ball, the guy that's going to get assists and shoot the ball more than drive to the basket.
I'm going to side table that one for another day because I know that's going to be a draft topic. All right, as far as them taking Sexton, if he is the next best point guard available, and since you have Trae going, I agree. I think that in your case, you're absolutely 100% right. You take Colin Sexton. He's still an elite athlete as a point guard. He obviously is known for being more of a scorer himself than facilitator, but I don't think that's cause for concern because I'm not sure that if you go Shea, it would feel like a heavy reach. I think if you were not in love with Colin Sexton and you're the Magic, and I'm looking at your spot, I would take a stab at Michael Porter. I don't care if it be damned. I would go for the guy who has the highest upside at that point.
My whole question with Michael Porter, too, is...
this combine.
Well, no, not just that. Okay. I personally see him as a 3.
Yeah.
But I know there's some out there, some sitting across the table from us.
Again, it's what he's shown us so far.
No, I know.
In the past year, he's shown us to be a 4.
Because that question is there... Right now, I was like, you know what? Give me the guy who's a ball handler that I could draft as my point guard, and he can be my point guard for X years down the line. And I'll worry about, like, because they just got Jonathan Isaac last year. I know he's not the offensive guy. They drafted him more off of his defense. But if I'm going with a pure ball handler right now, I might lean Colin Sexton for the Magic over a Michael Porter Jr. with what he showed us.
We talked about the fit. How does Michael Porter Jr. at least fit the Orlando Magic with the players they currently have?
I say fit be damned. You know,
well, how would he fit? How would that starting lineup look? Where you move Isaac to the 5, Gordon to the 4, and then put MPJ
Isaac
at the 3?
Isn't even close to starting yet, so I'm not worried about that.
Okay, so just you leave Vucevic at the 5?
Yeah, unless you can get a trade for Vucevic for a starting caliber point guard or a pick, maybe back in if you can package next year's pick plus Vuce For Draymond straight up now. For a pick
I got it.
in this.
The Suns re-sign Alfred Payton. They ship him back to Orlando, and then Vucevic goes and plays the 5 for the Suns.
There you go. That's not deal.
And they take Luka.
Yeah. So I think that their best answer is to just roll him out there at the 3-4 Euro with him and Gordon at the wings, and you just live with it. I don't think you worry too much. I'm hopeful that he will come back athletically well enough to play the 3. I think if he's a little slow, you just have him switch on defense. AG plays the 3 on D. He's athletic enough to cover that. His struggles were offensively at the 3 because he was not good enough with his ball handling skills to be the 3. So I think you just run it out like that. And if you're lucky, you can get Vuce out of town for a point guard or Vuce plus a pick to get back up maybe Clippers range, and maybe you can get Shea there.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's a possibility, but where they're slotted currently to pick, Trae Young, I don't think again is the best point guard available. I still think Colin Sexton is going to be the better pro. I'm still going to die on that hill, but again, I think this is what teams will do. I think it's Trae Young. I think he's higher on people's boards, at least across the NBA, and I think again he has the higher star potential out of Colin Sexton and Trae Young. And I think he also probably fits Orlando a little bit better because, again, like Ricky mentioned, he has the passing abilities, which is going to benefit Aaron Gordon, who's shown a little bit of a three-point shot at the start of the year, and a deadly three-point shot, at least at the start of the year.
Yeah, they were incredible.
Evan Fournier, we talked about his scoring abilities. It's going to set up Evan Fournier, and it's going to at least draw attention away from Trae Young's ability to shoot. I think he's a better fit, at least for the Orlando Magic. But let's move on now into the 7th overall pick, which is the Chicago Bulls. And
we just skipped this one. We talked enough about Michael Porter Jr.
We have the same pick for the Chicago Bulls.
I'm scared he might not be there for
Michael
the Bulls.
Porter Jr. all across the board for me, Dave, and Ricky. I felt dirty doing this just because I know so many Bulls fans want Michael Porter Jr. And
I do so bad.
It's just something where I didn't want to give Ricky the satisfaction.
I understand.
It's something where, again, also it's the biggest question about the injury. If he's not injured, though, he's not going to be here for the Chicago Bulls. And I think most teams know that, and most people know that, Ricky.
Well, and the thing that I had the hard decision making in mind personally is because Jaren Jackson was still around. I had a 3-man decision of, do I go Michael Porter Jr., which, that's what I was going to do from the start. But, like, Jaren Jackson, if he's there, the Bulls could take him because it's like, oh, you know what? We could then try to trade Rolo. We can roll maybe Jaren Jackson at the 5, Laurie at the 4, or if you want to play Laurie at the 5, Jackson at the 4, you can do whichever you want there. Or you could take a Mikal Bridges, a guy who, hey, we need a 3. He could be the 3 and D guy. So, I mean, with me, there was a little bit of a discussion in my head about who to take. But in the end, it all came back to I'm in the camp of if MPJ is there, we are getting MPJ, draft MPJ. My fear, though, is that we won't get MPJ because I think he's going to show up at the Combine and a team like the Kings or the Magic or someone above us is going to draft him.
Do you think we pull the trigger if case scenario with our pick plus 22 plus something to try to get him? Maybe toss in a Bobby Portis, give him the old 1-2 punch.
I mean, I don't see us trading the 7. Maybe if we can get like.
I mean, we traded up last year.
I mean,
obviously the
you
Bulls,
also had Jimmy Butler though.
I know.
Different.
I'm just saying, like the Bulls are not exactly known for like going down like that.
If Porter's their guy though,
it.
I mean, we see the connection. He's at Bulls games. He grew up a Bulls fan. I mean, if he's the guy, I mean, why not? If you're in love with him so much, why not?
For me, I would not give up a player the 7th and the Pelican pick. Like for me, I would try like if I'm giving up maybe Bobby Portis and the Pelican pick, but somehow keeping on to my 7th. Like
you need to get up if you're going to move up. The 7th.
For me, I feel like if Michael Porter is off the board, there will be prospects there at the 7th spot that will still be better for. Like in my head am ready to, all right, we didn't get Michael Porter Jr. I'm happy with Mikal Bridges. I am preparing for that now because we moved down one spot.
If you think he's that much of a game changer, though, why wouldn't you do it?
That's what I don't understand.
Well,
because I mean, as a Bulls fan, I'm saying yes.
We hear Buzz and Juice talk about this all the time on the Outcast. That they're absolutely in love with Michael Porter Jr. He's the guy. You talked about him or Trae Young being the guy. If they're not available, and you're at 7, or you're looking at 7, and you're thinking that Trae Young's not going to be available because the Magic are going to take him, and you look at that 2 through 5 spot, that's where Michael Porter Jr. is going to go. Why wouldn't you trade up and get that guy if you think he's going to be the game changer next to Levine, next to Dunn, next to Laurie?
Because I also like Mikal Bridges. Like, for me, it's not a...
Are they in the same realm of potential?
No.
Because we talked about Michael Porter Jr. being his top end being a 1, where McHale is going to be a solid starter for years.
With the Bulls, it comes down to ask me after the combine about Michael Porter Jr., because if he shows up, then, yeah, trade everything in the world for him if he's what we thought he was going to be and then some. But if he shows up at the combine where it's like, wow, he is still where he's at right now, then I wouldn't lean towards trading up for him. I would be like,
but if he's
fine,
still there, do you think that he could fall then? Do you roll the dice on a guy who you think could be a franchise cornerstone?
If he's there at
hope he falls and be okay with taking McHale if he doesn't?
At this point, so based off of, let's say,
what you've seen so far,
pre-combine.
Yep. Yes.
If he's there at 7, I take him. If he goes before, like if he has a chance to go before, I don't trade up for him, and I just take McHale if he does.
Okay.
If he does show up at the combine, then that percentage kind of sways, and I think heavily about trading up for him, because then he's showing me what he can be, or what I think he can be at his best.
I think the only thing for Michael Porter Jr. is he's only going to move up. I don't think the combine's really going to kill him too much, because I think teams are still going to at least see him as a guy that he could be. And again, this is
he still has all of his individual workouts after that. Should he choose to do them, which I assume he would. There's no reason not to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think there's a reason why.
If he wants to hide from potential criticism or whatever.
Maybe if he wants to hide from potential teams as well. Maybe he doesn't want to go to Memphis. Maybe he wants to be a Chicago Bull.
I mean,
again, we see all the connections.
I say we watched who dodged the Celtics last year. Josh Jackson, right?
Yeah, I think so.
No, it was Lonzo. Didn't Lonzo, I don't think, try out for the Celtics.
It's happened in the past, all I'm saying. Like, teams refuse workouts. KP refused to work out for the 76ers. He didn't want to be on their team.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen it happen. So, I don't know. I think that if you believe that he's the guy, regardless of this workout happening or not, you go in, you do your individual workout with him, and then you make the trade. I would be willing to pull the trigger on moving up for him. I think everything we've seen out of him coming out of high school said that this guy has the shot that's there. He has a body that is NBA ready. He needs to get back into shape, which is the biggest question. But if you think the back injury, or if the back injury is medically cleared across the board by your doctors, the NBA doctors, the team doctors, then there's no reason not to pull the trigger on that guy.
I think the same thing too. I mean, again, I think the only way he moves is up, because if he's healthy, he's moving up. And he's not going to be there for the Bulls at 7. Maybe that pushes a guy like Trae Young down. Maybe it pushes a guy like Mo Bamba down. Maybe it pushes a guy like Jaren Jackson down. But it's going to push one of those guys down if he is healthy, because again, that 6'11" frame, the ability to shoot from the outside, that's something that we don't see every single day. And I know some people point out, look at Marvin Bagley. Completely different players, because again, we're looking at Michael Porter Jr. as a 3, as a guy that can possibly be a ball handler in certain situations for your team. And this is a kid with his athleticism, his at least fluidity to the game, running the ball up and down the court. It's different than Michael Porter Jr.'s ability. Marvin Bagley's ability. Yep. We see at least Michael Porter Jr. being an athlete that can work from 27 feet out and in. On every single possession, where Bagley's probably going to be run on certain sets behind the 3-point line, where he's mostly going to work, inside the arc and near the hoop for Marvin Bagley. So different players. Again, we don't really see the frame of Michael Porter Jr. unless we're talking about guys like, I hate to say it, KD.
Ingram. He comes from the same. We're all hoping for the same thing for all the, So everybody worth tossing up to KD.
Michael Porter Jr. at 7 for the Chicago Bulls. All right, let's move to the Cleveland pick. They have the 8th pick from Brooklyn. We're going to be talking about Cleveland, what they should be doing, whether with or without LeBron James. This is going to be probably the worst situation for Cleveland. Didn't get a top 3 pick, which probably would have been able to be easily conveyed for a guy like Kawhi Leonard, or at least be able to get you a game changer. Be like, hey, Bron, we're getting a top 3 pick. Probably the worst, at least, situation for Cleveland. You still have a top 8 pick, but now you look back at that Kyrie trade. You're getting Isaiah Thomas, not on the team. Jay Crowder, not on the team. This pick ended up being, Brooklyn. We thought they were going to be one of the worst teams. Possibly could have been a top 3 pick. Ends up being 8th worst situation for Cleveland. What does Cleveland do? I mean, you have them going with I have them going with Mikal Bridges. You have them going Jaren Jackson. You have them going Mikal Bridges. I think they're getting a steal with at least Jaren Jackson.
Well, and I mean, the reason why I had them going Triple J is because LeBron's still on the team. And I mean, if LeBron's still on the team, you can get Jaren Jackson. You can play him at the 4. You can play him at the 5. I would probably play him at the 5. K Love at the 4. The thing that I worry about if I'm the Cavs is if LeBron leaves, I don't know what the hell you do with this pick then. Because, you could take a Mikal Bridges then, but he's not going to be your number one. Like, he's not the guy. Like, you're going to lose LeBron, and there's no one going to take that number one role in this draft. So that's why, to me, if they lose LeBron, this pick could get traded. Could get traded for something just because they feel like we need to get a scorer that can fill what LeBron just left and
You're
gave
not
us
going
that
to get
void.
anything that comes close
Well,
to that, though,
not
value-wise.
close to LeBron. I'm just saying, like...
No, but...
What?
That's what
You're
I'm
saying
waiting
value
for,
to the pick, though. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
I think you take McHale, like, in your situation, I would take McHale because at least you have the top end. You're hoping for someone that comes in sort of, in the mold of Klay Thompson or a Chris Midd, where he can come in and be a 20-point-a-game scorer. Maybe not number one option truly, but in these couple of years, he can do the job.
I mean, the thing with the draft is we're not going to know if LeBron's going or leaving because it's happening in June and all free agency stuff happens in July. So I mean, I'm picking if I'm Dan Gilbert, if I'm the ownership, if I'm Kobe Altman, I'm picking based on LeBron James is staying. I think we've done enough where LeBron's going to stay. LeBron's a Cleveland guy. I'm picking because of LeBron. Maybe that's short-sighted, but that's what I'm doing. I'm going with Mikal Bridges because I think that's going to at least add enough to him because you're going to get a 3-and-D player that's going to at least be able to help you against the Warriors, against Boston. We see what wings are doing right now in this series. We see what Cleveland's wings aren't doing in J.R. Smith. That's playing defense, that's hitting effective threes. We see Mikal Bridges has that ability to do so. I think that's going to be a nice fit. I know people talk about that 5, Wendell Carter's on the board, but I think at least pressing right now is that wing spot. You need someone who's going to be guarding Jason Tatum. You need someone who's going to be guarding Jaylen Brown. You need someone who's going to be guarding Gordon Hayward. You need someone who's going to be guarding the guys on the Sixers as well. You need a guy who's going to be guarding wings. I think Mikal Bridges is going to do that. However, we're talking, drafting without LeBron. I think they might be able to get a scorer like that. Colin Sexton's still on my board. If you're going to rebuild this team, go with Colin Sexton. This is a guy, again, who I think is going to be a better pro than Trae Young, at least at that point guard position. He could be a game changer. We look at Kevin Knox, one of the youngest players in this draft. We talk about his ability to possibly score. Maybe you can mold him into that next level number one, and then also Miles Bridges as well at the 3. An interesting player could possibly be a number 1 on a team.
The question I was going to ask is, of course, I immediately thought to, in my situation, to trade because Sexton's off the board, Young's off the board. I'm thinking maybe hey, Atlanta, what do you want for, what are you gauging for Dennis Schroeder? All right, nothing. We're not going to trade that. The question that I have is, if LeBron leaves, is Shai Gilgeous, let's say Sexton and Young, like my situation, are off the board. Is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander too much of a reach for them at 8?
Shai?
Yes.
I will. Because in your situation, yes.
Well, because what we're seeing right now, Jordan Clarkson is good, but do you think he's going to be the main point guard in Cleveland for the future? George Hill, I don't know what's going on with him now, especially in these playoffs where it's like he coming in, didn't play well. All right, we're going to bench him. Then Cavs start playing well.
If LeBron James is gone, they're taking the player with the brightest future. It doesn't matter about the position. It doesn't matter about where it's going because if LeBron's gone, you're most likely trading K-Love. You're trading anybody with value because you're rebuilding this team if LeBron's gone. It's plain and simple as that. So you're taking the best player and the kid with the most potential. That's why I don't think you go with Shai Gilgeous because I like Shai Gilgeous as a prospect, but I think this is too much of a reach. I think we're talking potential.
Fit is not that important at that point. If you're 95% sure LeBron's leaving, fit doesn't matter. Fit no longer matters. It only matters if LeBron's staying. I think that you go, like Sean said, the route of a Kevin Knox, Mikal Bridges, someone, and on yours you even have with Jaren Jackson up there. Like I don't know that I would go him in that situation because if you're going the whole rebuild, sure, that's okay. But if you think you can build around like a more successful version of the Kevin Love T-Wolves, where you think that he still has the juice in him, maybe.
I think if LeBron's gone, everybody's gone. That's my idea. If LeBron's gone, K-Love's gone. That means you're trying to move Tristan Thompson. You're trying to move Kyle
you're
Korver.
In a position where you're probably going to have to move Caleb to move Tristan Thompson. Unfortunately,
you're trying to strip everything because this is a whole rebuild. If LeBron's gone, I'm going Colin Sexton. At least with the way my mock draft's taken so far. Porter's off the board. Trae Young's off the board. Bamba, Jackson, Bagley, Doncic, Ayton, all off the board.
I'll put you
the player with the most potential in my mind to be a great pro is Colin Sexton. He would be the best fit for the Cavs if LeBron's gone.
I feel like I know your answer. I feel like you would go Kevin Knox. But what if you're in my situation and Young and Sexton are off the board?
I probably Young and Sexton are off the board.
So would you go Knox or McHale?
Look at my draft and who would you take? Like for me, I would go if LeBron's gone, Mikal Bridges because he's my BPA.
But I don't think so.
Jaren Jackson's BPA, but don't know.
We're talking about potential here. So I wouldn't go Mikal because we talked about him possibly capping out as a number 2 option, or at least an elite 3-and-D player, not a number 1 option. I mean, we don't see a lot of guys being labeled as a 3-and-D and also being number 1 on a team. Like, Kevin Love's a good defender. Kevin Durant's a great defender, but it's Kevin Durant. I mean, that's one of the most deadly scorers we've ever seen in NBA history. He's not seen as a 3-and-D player. He's seen as a great player.
Yeah. Like Jalen Rose has said, he's a professional scorer.
Yeah, you look at Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges, I think, will be a great 3-and-D player. I don't know if he's going to be a great player, a professional scorer in that aspect. I think Kevin Knox probably has the most ability and most potential to do that. If we're saying Colin Sexton's off the board, I don't think Colin Sexton's off the board though. So Colin Sexton goes because I think he brings that at least leadership at 1. I think he brings that tenacity that you want at 1. I think some people complain about Colin Sexton's ability to at least take some bad shots, kind of dominate the game, but he was on a bad Alabama team, and he also thinks of himself as a leader.
Well,
I would want that if I'm rebuilding a team.
Plus, he's used to playing out there with 2 other guys and not other 2 guys out there. He only played with him and 2 other players were the Cavs. It could be, hey, these 2 guys aren't doing anything. So he's used to that.
Yeah, he could be on a very young team if they are moving pieces left and right to clear house to try to get back into a rebuild mode. So I could see that potentially fitting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, especially the way this Boston Celtics series flames out. Because if he loses in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it's pretty much certain that he's gone. I mean, the only way I think he stays is if they go to the finals.
And I know you told me not to mention it, but I am because it's final now. 2-0, Celtics up.
Yeah, so I mean that's going to be something that the Cavs have 5 games to work with, and you got to win 4. I mean, it's going to be rough and a dangerous situation. A thing that we didn't see planning out really.
No.
The Celtics making it this far, and then also being up 2-0 after 2 games. So I mean, Boston's done a great job. Brad Stevens done a great job. And the crazy thing is they could have had a spot in 2 through 5 with the way the Lakers spot that Laker pick
lucky
planned
Elton
out.
Brand, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely crazy there. But the Cavs, it's going to be a very interesting situation. This offseason is going to be hectic. That 8 spot. Is it going to be moved for a guy that's going to help LeBron? Is it going to be moved for a young player that's going to play next to LeBron? Or is it going to be picking LeBron's successor? That's going to be the biggest thing.
LeBron sign and trade.
And you really can't miss out because LeBron has been the reason why Cleveland succeeded in the NBA. LeBron's gone. I mean, that's going to be dark days because you don't have a Kyrie Irving coming up next. You're going to have to see if Colin Sexton's going to be that guy or not. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Would LeBron be so gracious to say, all right, Cleveland, sign. I'll allow a sign and trade, and I won't just leave you.
I think he would.
I'm on the other end. I don't think he would.
Come on, he's done it before.
Because my first thought
was, he hates Dan Gilbert.
Because my first thought was, hey, you know what? Let's work some kind of a deal. LeBron James sign and trade, and we'll take Ryan Anderson off your hands, Houston.
That actually, I hate when Ricky starts to make a little more sense.
He's on our podcast. Come on, quit shitting on the guy on our podcast. That makes our podcast
it's the tinfoil hat ideas that are like, I could see that.
Well, it's going to make some. I mean, they're going to need to make the cap work out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Ryan Anderson's probably going to have to be part of that deal. Yeah. I don't know who else is going to be a part of that. Fucking Clint Capella maybe in a sign and trade. I don't know. We're not going to start getting into
all
Houston,
the big Cleveland
talk. But anyways, that Cavs pick is going to be interesting. Let us know what you think the Cavs are going to do at that 8 spot. Let's jump into the 9th pick, the New York Knicks. We talked about the Knicks possibly being a landing spot for LeBron. That's probably very unlikely. But I have them going with Wendell Carter Jr. from Duke. Ricky has them going with Mikal Bridges from Villanova. Dave has them going with Kevin Knox from Kentucky. I want to go to Dave first because Kevin Knox, first time going off the board here. Kevin Knox, interesting young forward from Kentucky. Had a real nice start to the year, then faded off a little bit. One of the youngest players in this draft. Why do you think he's a good fit for New York?
I think he fits exactly what they're looking for. He's someone who has that extra potential like you mentioned. He's someone who doesn't cap out at role player. He's someone who can have multiple tools to kind of create his own... I don't want to say he has superstar potential, but I think he has above average starter potential in the NBA. I think he's someone the physical's lined up, the attitude's right, and his ability to play. We've seen him go from number 1 option, number 3 option on that team, and you didn't hear many problems. He transitioned over. I mean, some might say it's a lack of wanting to be the guy, and it shows a lack of initiative. But at the same time, he followed the coach at his couch. It's a very different game than the NBA where, really talent trumps a lot of things. And if you have the talent to be the better player, then the offense can run through you. So I think New York runs into a situation where they've got a lot of young guards, and I kind of want to see how that plays out, with them bringing in a couple late in the season and Frank's slow development year 1, which I expected, but a lot of people were like, should we be worried? The answer is no. Chill it. He'll be fine. And you give KP a wing on the outside who can, A, handle the ball, B, shoot pretty well at multiple levels. So I think all in all, it's exactly what New York needs this time.
Ricky, you have some going with the same position at least. Mikal Bridges with a 3/2. Why are you going Mikal over Kevin Knox?
Well, I mean, for me, it's Mikal to me is the better 3 right now. He's the better small forward. And the thing I think overall for this team, and really the pick I'm more interested to hear about, is you at Wendell Carter.
Yeah.
Because for me, I don't care if it's Mikal Bridges. I don't care if it's Kevin Knox. You're going with one of them. Mikal's off the board, like in your and Dave's situation. I'm going with Kevin Knox. If Mikal's on the board in my situation, I'm going with Mikal. Because, you have the point guards. It's either Frank or Moutier. You got to work with. Trey Burke also gave you some good numbers this year, but he's an off-the-bench guy, like you said. You've got Tim Hardaway Jr. locked down at the 2. Kristaps coming back. He's going to be in that injury, so don't expect to compete right away. You've got Enes Kanter at the 5. To me, the 3 is the biggest question mark. Why not get a guy in Mikal Bridges, who we talked 3-and-D guy until we're blue in the face, that kind of greediness that Fizdale can maybe pull out of him in that 3-and-D role.
Well, Enes has an option, so it's not for sure certain that he's going to be on the team. Most likely not going to pass up $18 million. But I have him going Wendell Carter Jr. just because of at that 5 spot. I mean, it's not for sure certain that Enes is going to be on the team the year after. So that's going to be something that plays in there.
He'll probably play the 4 while Porzingis is out.
But I don't think that matters because I mean, if Enes is, then if Enes is playing the 4, then again Carter fits at the 5. Carter fits at the 4 or 5. I don't think that really matters.
While Porzingis is out, Wendell Carter can play the 4 next to Enes.
Oh, that's
then
what you're saying.
Porzingis comes in, move Wendell.
I thought you were saying Enes would be playing the 4 because I was talking about Enes. No, I'm just talking strictly about Wendell Carter. It doesn't matter where he's playing year 1. I'm just talking about where he's going to end up fitting next to KP because that's the true fit. Or the true, star there is going to be KP. I think at least Wendell Carter brings, a very well-rounded game to go with KP's, at least rim protector ability, and then also his dangerous offensive game when he's healthy. That's going to give you a dangerous 4-5 duo. Because again, I don't know what the situation will be with Enes Kanter in 2019, and I think it's also with this year upcoming. You look at that 3 spot, we see Tim Hardaway play there before. We see Courtney Lee at the 2. We see Frank at the 2, Frank at the 1, Trey Burke at the 1. We also see Moody at the 1. I don't think that is a lockdown set yet. We don't know where each player is going to play. And yes, you could slot in a guy at that 3, but also let's look ahead because I don't think New York's going to be a team that really contends because if KP's out for a certain amount of time, you don't have your number 1 star. Yeah. Let's look ahead to the next draft where we have Barrett, where we have Zion Williamson, where we have guys like Romeo Langford. You guys can get a number 1. You can get a number 3. You can get a 1. You can get a 3. At those positions,
you can get ball and just have 2 bigs who are giants.
But I'm saying more at least with the guys that are at least 1, 2, and 3 right now. Those guys are playing the 3. Those guys are playing the 1. So I think that's where you're looking at, and I think New York's not going to be that good of a team because of KP's injury. I'm looking ahead. You have the ability to get a Zion who's a very defensive-minded player. RJ Barrett, who looks like the best player in this upcoming high school draft class. He could be a guy that slots in for this team. I think you're looking ahead, and I think at least Wendell Carter at least brings you a guy that's for sure going to be playing the 5 next year and for his rest of the career, and also pairs very nicely with KP. So that's my thought process, at least with that pick, is I think it's more of a pick for the future because you're currently slotted at 9, but I don't think you're going to be at 9 next year. I think you're going to be above 9, probably in that top 5 at least for New York just because of that KP injury. We don't know how he's going to come back, when he's going to come back, if they're going to rush him.
I was going to say, I'll ask the question, if the Knicks are already out of playoff contention by, I don't know, let's say second week of January, do you think we see Porzingis at all?
No, I'd shut him down.
Yeah, I'd shut him down too. I mean, that's the thing is, again, we're looking at next year. If you're shutting him down, you have RJ Barrett, who's a 3, 6'7", 200 pounds. This kid could be a guy that comes in and be the next great wing player. That's more than just a 3-and-D player like Mikal Bridges. You look at Reddish from Duke as well, 6'7", 203, very similar to a guy like Barrett. Again, he could be a guy that's more than just a 3-and-D player. Romeo Langford could be a 2 if you want Frank to be your 1. He's a guy that can put up a ton of points. There's a lot of players, even like Little as well, who's going to North Carolina. These are guys that can be more than 3-and-D players that can slot in and come in.
You got this as a multi-year plan. You did KP into Frank into Wendell into insert top 3 pick here.
Bingo.
All right.
And that's the thing is, if you think Frank can be a number 1, slot him at the 1. Then you have the option of a Romeo Langford who's going to IU to be that 2. That 3 could be Tim Hardaway Jr., 4 KP, 5 Wendell Carter. I think Wendell Carter is a for sure player and a for sure starter for the next couple of years. I don't know if he's going to be that next level player, but at least he will be able to fit in at that 5 spot if Enes is not going to be there, and he could be more well-rounded than Enes is. Enes is an offensive machine. Defensively, it's not really there. I think Wendell Carter can at least be at least a nice pairing defensively and offensively next to KP. So
I think he comes in above where Kyle O'Quinn is. Basically, like skill set wise, I think he's an unselfish guy. He's a good defender, great passer out of the post, and has an okay shot. And like above average glue guy even. Like I know they've got Noah under contract for forever because they made poor decisions. Yeah. But like having a guy on that team, we saw what Noah did for Chicago as a guy who was not asked to step up into the spotlight, but who was the linchpin of how that team stuck together, ran, and kept as a cohesive unit. I see a player like Wendell Carter being that kind of guy at the next level. I don't know that he'll ever hit Defensive Player of the Year candidate, kind of like Joe, but like still he's in that Al Horford-esque mold.
Yeah, and I think that'd be lovely. I think it'd be swell for the next week. Podcasting too much for the next. I think it'd be perfect for Wendell Carter. Just fit in. You're not going to be seen as a number 1 guy.
He doesn't need to be the 1 because he got KP. He doesn't need to be the 2 because you still have Hardaway Jr. Like he doesn't need to be that guy.
And I think he could fit any role you need him to outside of the number 1 option. But we just talked about that being KP. So I think that's where the Knicks really land out. I mean, you can go, and Mikhail's not even on the board for me, so that's why it's not even an option.
For you, it would have been Knox or him, but you think next year's option at small forward is better than where Knox is right now.
Bingo. And also, you're going to get that kid younger as well. Kevin Knox right now is the youngest player in the draft, but he's not going to be the youngest player in next year's draft.
Yeah, he's not going to drag and bender it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my thought with the Knicks. Let's move on to 10, though. 76ers get the pick from the Lakers. I have them going Miles Bridges. Ricky has them going with Wendell Carter. And Dave has them going with Zaire Smith. First time we're talking about Zaire on this podcast. Zaire, a guy from Texas Tech. You had him in the 4.0, Dave. Why do you like him for the 76ers so much that you're putting him back in the 5.0?
I watched what happened in that Celtics 76er series, and I went, Jesus Christ, they need someone who can defend. Like, we all gushed about how good of a signing earlier this year Rocco was. You locked him down long term, and you're watching that series, and you're going, how come he's having so many problems matching up? And when you look back at what made him great was his off-ball help defense. One-on-one, he's above average. He's not elite. Zaire Smith is someone who can guard 1 through 4. He can body people up. He's athletic. He is strong. He is very physical. But he's also someone who has the ability to grow his shot, and I think who can come in and be a nice piece on that team because, again, you have your 2 stars. You have potentially 3 if Markelle Fultz can come back to form what we saw him coming out of college. Then you need someone who can be the guy to shut down the other team's 1. And I think Zaire Smith is built for that, and he has crazy upside potential because athletically, I mean, just sky's the limit.
Yeah, and how if we're talking about who they're going to be going up against in the Eastern Conference, we look at Jason Tatum, we look at Jaylen Brown, we look at Gordon Hayward. You're going to need somebody to play that wing position and defend those guys. So, I mean, the pick makes sense, but again, that guy is so raw. It's not determined what he's going to be offensively, and even defensively, we don't know if he's going to be able to step into that spot right away because, again, he is young. He showed a lot of promise at Texas Tech, but that Texas Tech team was still very good. So if it's just basically athleticism, yes, you can run that if you're the 76ers because you're such a deep team. You have so many options. But also, again, I mean, is he going to be a guy that can come in and play day one in the NBA? That's going to be interesting to see, especially we got to look at his combine, what he does, also in individual workouts. Really stand out. Yeah, it's going to be a big upcoming week for Zaire Smith. Ricky, you have him going with a familiar face, though, Wendell Carter.
And I mean, before I get into the Wendell Carter thing, the thing I was just thinking about is if you're a 76er fan, you should be hoping for a Mikal Bridges fall. Like, to me, Mikal Bridges is the guy. I know Zaire Smith brings it to, but like, he is the 3-and-D guy where it's like he would fit perfectly there. For me, the reason why I go Wendell Carter is he's BPA for me at this point. Plus, I mean, you look at what the starting lineup is. If Markelle Fultz is what we expect him to be, Fultz at the point guard position.
No,
I'm assuming.
You already got Ben Simmons at the 1.
No, I'm saying like just because he's the 1 doesn't mean he's going to bring the ball up.
You do you.
He's at the point guard position. You've got JJ Redick. I think he's going to sign a team-friendly deal. Hey, you gave me money. Now I'll scratch your back this next year. He'll be back for the 2. Ben Simmons is out there. He's kind of the small forward if you're putting him in a position. Then it's that power forward because Joe's the 5. And Amir Johnson's up. Ricardo Holmes, is he gonna? Rashawn Holmes, are they gonna bring him back with the club option? Ilyasova, you need a power forward for me, and I go with the best one right there at Wendell Carter.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with all that if JJ does resign. And also, we got to see the developments of Markelle Fultz. Will he be able to show that jump shot that he showed at Washington? If not, you can't play him and Ben Simmons in the same role. So that's going to be a big, at least something to watch for over the upcoming offseason. What is going to be Markelle Fultz's situation? I mean, hell, if he's not going to pan out, and you have a guy like maybe Trae Young falls dramatically. If Trae Young's there, would you think weirdly enough to go with them? Because hey, Ben Simmons passes to Trae Young. That sounds pretty damn nice.
Can you have too much elite passing ability on a team?
Why not?
Why the Sixers averaged the most passes per game this year.
And also, if you're passing to a guy like Trae Young, who's going to be wide open, if he is wide open, that kid's going to make pretty much 50% of the shots.
And I mean, when we're talking about the gold standard out west, what are we always talking about? The extra pass from Golden State.
And Houston.
Extra one, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think he's going to fall that low, but just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Or with Houston, it's the 21 dribbles from James Harden.
With 76ers, though, I do have them going with Miles Bridges. Kind of same lines up Dave. I think he's BPA, but I mean, Dave might even talk me into Zaire Smith the way he's talking about him. Because, again, you need defensive ability if you're going to be playing against Boston. And, Miles Bridges, I think he's going to be that, possibly that next level scorer. Maybe put up, 16 to 18 points per game. I don't know if they really need that at that 3 because, again, if you have Ben Simmons playing the 1, and then JJ at the 2, at that 3, I think you need that next level defender. Miles really isn't there. He's going to play nicely against JJ Redick and Miles Bridges, but also if Zaire's going to be able to develop that shot, maybe they do go to Zaire. So I think that's an interesting pick.
Yeah.
I'm just going Miles Bridges because I think he has that leadership ability, which will be nice and helpful, especially late in games, which we saw was very detrimental to Philadelphia. He's going to bring experience, which is going to be important because, again, playing with Tom Izzo, playing with a coach like that for the past 2 years, being seen as a leader, that's going to be big for this team that still needs to find that leadership ability. We know Joe and Ben Simmons are great players, but do they have a leader on that team? Do they have a leader out of those two? I don't really know if we've seen that yet, so I think it's going to be a big thing. I think Miles Bridges can bring that leadership and that mentality to their team. So I have them going with Miles Bridges at 10. Now let's move to the Hornets at 11. I have them going Colin Sexton. Ricky has them going with Kevin Knox. Dave has them going with Colin Sexton. We've talked about this at nauseum. Colin Sexton is pretty much the pick and the successor to Kemba Walker if they're looking to trade him in his last year.
Well, and for me, that's the question because I had Colin Sexton go at 6 to the Magic. If they look to get rid of Kemba Walker, look to trade him, do they still go with a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander then at 11? I say no. You know what? Let me take the BPA again with Kevin Knox. But if you're looking to get rid of Kemba Walker and you're like, I kind of need a point guard, then I could see them going with Shai Gilgeous if Young and Sexton are both off the board.
How much do you think separates Kevin Knox and Shai Gilgeous, at least because you're saying BPA? How much do you think separates them? Because if they do need a position of need, it clearly is a bigger separation. It's almost
razor thin to me. And
so if it's razor thin, then why would you go position?
And the reason why I say that is because of it's truly what the choice is for Kemba Walker. If you're going to keep him this year and not trade him, I'm not going to draft another point guard. I'll worry about that can when I have to worry about that can.
He's kicking the can down the road.
Exactly. I'll take the guy like Kevin Knox. If I know this year I'm going to trade Kemba Walker, then I'll go with the point guard because I'm going to need someone to replace that role on my team.
Question for you. Do you think the relationship can be salvaged between Kemba and this team?
Yes, I do think so. I think that it's not a for sure thing that he gets traded. That's why I even had Kevin Knox here.
Again, is it a frayed situation or are they just trying to move cap? I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think they hate Kemba Walker, the player.
They don't dislike Kemba, but it's the fact that he feels slighted by this. He found out about this via, Twitter, basically?
Yeah.
That his name was being thrown around trades to move cap off of the team. If that's all I am to a team after how many years I've given to you,
but also that's
a statement.
Different regime. They got rid of Rich Cho, who was the guy. Kupchak has come in.
Yep.
That could possibly be a big change of guard. Having Jordan, having Kupchak, and then also, what are you gonna say, Ricky?
I mean, I was gonna say they can salvage it, but at the same time, Mitch Kupchak is kind of like the similar thing that we mentioned, like with Jerry West and the Clippers. It's where I'm going to come in, I'm doing what's best for this team. I am going to make the moves that makes this team better.
No relationship.
Exactly.
Just clean house.
Jerry West came in and said, all right, we're trading Blake.
That was pretty bold. I don't think any of us knew that he would pull the trigger on something that major in his first year with the Clippers.
I could see Kupchak doing the same thing, although I don't think it's like a for sure he's getting traded.
Right. Now, I'm just to say, possibly could at least repair that situation. I think the biggest reason, though, they're moving Kemba is not because of the player again. It's just because of the cap.
Yeah.
So I think,
they're doing what's best for the franchise.
I think they're going to be doing...
But in order to move Batum, you got to move Kemba, too.
I think they're going to be doing that, which is why they go Colin Sexton, because, again, I think he's the best point guard available. I think he has the most pro potential, and is the ability for him to translate to the pros, I think, is higher than Trae Young. But, again, I think he's going to be a nice fit, especially next to the moist one in Malik Monk. But let's move into the Clippers to talk about them so damn much. We just mentioned Jerry West. Let's move into them. They got two picks. 12 and 13. I have them going with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Kevin Knox, two Kentucky boys at 12 and 13. Ricky has them going with Miles Bridges and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And then Dave has them going with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Wendell Carter Jr. So clearly we have the need for a point guard.
I like how I couldn't make it easy and have us all go with Shai at 12.
On the top.
Well, I'll just flip that because now you pointed that out and I realized that was a thing.
No, I want Miles Bridges going
It doesn't matter where they're picking. So we're having Shai go 12 across the board because that looks better.
First.
But if you change it,
whoever picks
I'm going to
first,
jump across and punch you. This is the first on the podcast.
We're very professional.
We're putting this here. So, Dave, why don't you talk about Shai Gilgeous being a good fit for the team, the Clippers?
What's interesting here is you're saying that Shai should get paid more than Miles Bridges right now.
Yes.
You're saying he deserves more money than Miles, which I think is a bold move.
Dad.
I'm not sure what that means.
He's got
that
like
Old
dad
Spice?
smell. Maybe.
It's Native. It's a sponsor of the podcast.
Fair
Native
enough.
deodorant.
All right, but clearly this is a Clippers team moving forward. They've moved pieces. Their franchise guy and Blake is gone. They've got Toby, a great piece to build around right now. But you go young. You go for the youth. You go Shai, who can be the next tier. He can be your next main point guard. Yes, you have Milos, and yes, you have Pat Bev. Both of those guys are, at this point in their career, role players. I think this team could go kicking and screaming into the playoffs if they all are healthy. The problem is that they weren't last year, so we're back in at 12 and 13 right now for this Clippers team. I think you go young point guard and Shai, someone who can develop, who has that two-way potential, and we saw him kind of spring for it a little bit at the end of the year. And then secondary, I'll let you guys talk about Shai a little bit first.
Well, I think, again, Ricky,
it's point guard. You need a point guard, yeah.
Yeah, and we talked consistently about him. And the frame is perfect for the NBA. We see his leadership ability, especially late, and not only in the tournament, but also in the second half of the season. His passing ability is there, and it's just really how well is he going to be developing as a scorer. But even then, late in the season, he even showed his scoring touch. So, again, it's best point guard available pretty much was my mindset there. That's why he goes to the Clippers.
My question is the other pick because, for me, the last few times I've been thinking, you've got Mitchell Robinson there. In our live lotto, I want Robert Williams there.
Yeah, why do you have him going with a forward? Because I have him going with a forward too. Dave goes with the center.
To me,
or at least a 4 or 5.
To me, I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? Maybe the potential is better there with Miles Bridges over Mitchell Robinson or Robert Williams. And, if you really need a power forward and you're not bringing back Montrezl Harrell, but if you're not bringing him back, fuck it. I'll just go get a power forward in free agency. I don't really care who it is. I'll just sign him to a reasonable deal, and I'll take the guy in the draft. That might be a little bit better for me down the road in Miles Bridges compared to reaching a little bit for one of the bigs because I need a big.
Well, I think the biggest thing with them is I think you might need a big, but again, we still look at the DeAndre situation. That's not for sure a lock. We saw Toby at the 4. Toby's going to fit the 4, so you really don't need a forward in my mind. I think you need more of a 3, and also I think the biggest thing is that Wendell Carter isn't on the board for me, and the next center is more of a project in Mitchell Robinson. We don't know what he's going to be, and with Kevin Knox, I really love this kid's potential. And at the 3, a guy that I think is going to be molded like Tobias Harris, wwhy wouldn't you put two guys that are very similar at the 3 and the
Toby?
4? Yeah, Skinny Toby, Young Toby, Young T, I don't know, with terrible nicknames. But I think these could be very beneficial to his growth. Playing next to a guy that's very similar, that's going to have a very natural game, and also we think Kevin Knox can possibly turn into a versatile and maybe even a really great defender. So I think putting him at the 3, Toby at the 4, you're going to have two similar wings. We see that be beneficial for teams before. I don't think it's going to really lock them down offensively. Having a guy like Shai too is going to be able to get the ball to them, and also if you're working with a guy like DeAndre or Jordan who can open up the middle of the lane. I think that's going to be something massive for them. So at the 1, you have a guy like Shai Gilgeous, if he is the starter, unless it's Pat Bev or Milos. At the 2, you have Lou Williams when he's out on the floor. Then at the 3, you have Kevin Knox. Again, talking about spacing right there. He's going to bring it. Lou Will's going to bring it, and also Toby's going to bring it. That gives the ability for Shai and Shai to attack the basket as well. DeAndre to run pick and rolls with Shai and then dish it out and swing it around. I think it'd be a really nice fit with Kevin Knox. Again, we're talking about potential here. I think Shai has the most potential as any point guard, at least left on the board, and I think Kevin Knox has the most potential, at least of any player on the board, maybe outside of Zaire Smith. But I think those are the 2 players with the most potential, and they also fit position needs.
Yeah, I've just got him rolling with Wendell Carter because he's fallen in my draft. I've talked about him before. I think he is an ideal big in today's NBA. He's unselfish. He's a smart player, high IQ, excellent passer out of low post, and can cover up defensively for people. So if you pair him with DeAndre Jordan at times, you now have 2 great defensive bigs. And if you need to switch them out or DeAndre decides not to take the free money for whatever reason and goes for greener pastures, I respect it, but you can have a fill-in guy right away. So I think that, landing a 1 and a 5 of the future or 1 and a 4 of the future, it balances out the team because, like you said, I believe in them having Toby as a key to this team. I think that you've got other pieces on this team who can continue to build on. So I'm really heavy on, because Wendell fell, land him here, be happy that he dropped so far.
I'm going to throw this out there because I think we're going on Clippers, because we talked about him a lot last live lotto last week. The one thing I will throw out there is just because he's on the team right now is DeAndre Jordan. If he does decline that option, the one team that I thought you would look at is the Suns, just because they don't have a ton of players that are massively taking up cap right now. I mean, you do have Tyson Chandler, I think it's $36 million for 3 years. But if you get a guy like DeAndre Jordan playing the center position, and if you think that's going to be a move that you can make in the offseason, you go Luka at the number 1 overall pick. You have Devin Booker, again, a guy that can be a dynamic scorer in the NBA. Luka, who can be a secondary or primary ball handler. Devin Booker could be a primary or secondary ball handler, and also Luka brings more of an all-around game. You have Josh Jackson, who could be your prototypical 3-and-D player. You have our buddy Dragan Bender, who could be a stretch 4, and then DeAndre Jordan can be that center that rim runs, be a rim protector. I think that brings you to a natural NBA, at least team, that gives you a modern NBA flair. So again, if the Suns, with their cap ability, want to pay a guy like DeAndre Jordan, who I think could be a nice fit on their team, maybe that's a thing that would draw DeAndre away, is a very young team with a lot of cap moving for a guy like DeAndre Jordan. But outside of that, I don't see him moving LA.
I think that he would take a cheapy discount contract to go play for a contender, because he's like, look, we just gave away our best player, and we've done this now 2 years in a row. Or technically it was within a 1 year span.
Yeah, off season and then regular season.
So why would I want to stay on this team now that I'm, in his mind, saying he's the best player? I don't think he is. I think Toby's better, but I think his contributions as an elite role player at the 5 is pretty unique. So I think his talents would be needed elsewhere for other teams. There's value there. I don't think he'd get money matching what he's getting from the player option here, but I still think that he could go find a contender and play deep in the playoffs again. The one thing, because we're from Chicago, I've heard the Bobby Portis to Clippers thing drawn and punched into the ground a million times. I still think if the Bulls want to move up Portis plus at 22, there is a chance for that, because I think Bobby's a guy with potential for small ball 5, 4. He's good energy and could fit.
Well, Ricky, since you're a Bulls fan, we talked a little bit about the 22 pick possibly being in a package if the Bulls want to move up to get a Michael Porter Jr., at least in the top 5. What do you think about the Bulls moving up, using that 22 and Bobby Portis to get a 12 or a 13 and possibly taking a player? I mean, you look at your board, who do you think would be a guy that they're targeting, especially if they go, Michael Porter at 7?
I've already got it mapped out. If I'm doing that, it's because Michael Porter has gone before 7. And what I'm doing is then at 7, I'll take Wendell Carter Jr. And have him be either my 4 or my 5, and then have Laurie be the 4 or the 5 wherever Wendell's not going to play. Then I'm moving Bobby and my Pelican pick to get either the 12 or the 13 to get a Miles Bridges, and then he's my 3.
Okay.
Or Kevin Knox, whichever one is there.
Most likely they're going to be going with the Clippers are probably going to give up the 13.
Because in that way you get a coveted player. I would say coveted player in Wendell Carter that many people are high on. And then you can still get your 3 at 13. And I mean, Bobby's a good player, but is Bobby going to be the future for us in Chicago?
I don't think anyone's thinking that. But, again, because also, Bobby really, again, we don't know what his position is.
He's a high energy, small ball 5 or a 4. So either way, I think he's still valuable from an NBA point of view. Could be an interesting move to package with a pick like 22 plus a second rounder. for the future. So
maybe he does need a fresh change of pace, even though he's been doing well in Chicago.
Yeah,
again,
as
maybe
soon as they
he needs
opened up
a little bit of a
the other half of the
change of
1-2
pace.
punch.
Yeah.
We just got to trade him to New Orleans. Got to get him with his buddy Nico.
Anyways, let's move to the Denver Nuggets, the last team in the lotto. I have him going with Zaire Smith from Texas Tech. Ricky has him going with Kyrie Thomas from Creighton, and Dave has Miles Bridges going to the Nuggets at 14. Dave, we kind of flipped. I had Miles Bridges going to the 76ers at 10. You had Zaire Smith going to the 76ers at 10. I have them the Nuggets going with Zaire Smith at 14. You have Miles Bridges going at 14. So we're on the same wavelength, at least going with a 3. Ricky, you have him going with a guard. Why is that?
Well, to me, I almost had them go with Zaire Smith, but to me, when I look at it, yes, Zaire Smith is defensively, what he brings is amazing, but when I look at everything going on right now, I kind of look at a little bit of Kyrie Thomas, and I really like what he brings to the game, and I kind of almost look at him as like a Mikal Bridges light, maybe very light, but also at a different position at the 2 rather than the 3. So, I mean, adding a guy who can be a defensive stopper at the 2 for them, can add outside, can shoot inside, has actually a better field goal percentage, I think, overall per 36, I think, 34, then, 36, than a Mikal Bridges.
Field goal percentage doesn't change per 36.
But I mean, like, it's all one of those things where he's got the better percentage overall, maybe going with that 2 over that 3, but I could have had him go with Zaire Smith too. The Nuggets are a toss-up to me. Like, they can go a 4, they can go a 3, they can go a 2. It's just whatever they think fits better.
This is a team that I don't think is really going to boost their playoff boosting. I think this is a team that's going to make the playoffs, no matter who they pick. But I just look at what's going to be coming up next. Wilson Chandler has a player option in 2018, 2019. After that, he's going to be gone. Will Barton is off the books after this year. Richard Jefferson off the books, even though he didn't play that much this year for the fucking Nuggets. But again, this is a team that needs some depth at that 3 spot, and I think that's going to be where Zaire Smith comes in. That's why I'm looking at that 3 spot. That's why Dave's looking at that 3 spot. Going with Miles Bridges. I think this is just something where the next position they need to at least fill out, at least after Wilson Chandler leaves, is going to be that 3 spot. And I think Zaire Smith, again, with his defensive abilities, you're also going to give him a year in the NBA to work on his shot, make sure that becomes a little more consistent. And we've seen them develop guards, and at least wings before, that have a ton of potential. Danilo coming over has been good for the Nuggets before.
Yeah.
Wilson Chandler's been good for the Nuggets before. Will Barton's been good for the Nuggets before. Carmelo. I mean, we can even throw him out there. JR.
Yeah.
They've scouted very well, at least wing players before. And I think, again, Zaire Smith, with his athletic ability, it's probably too good to pass up no matter what he does at the combine, because you can always, again, if he's a 5th option, he doesn't really need to be a deadly shooter. He just needs to be good enough. And defensively, I think he's most likely already there. And the athleticism is at least there. And that's something you could mold off the bench if he's playing behind a Wilson Chandler. If you bring back Will Barton, I think it's going to be an interesting fit. That's why I really like him, because he's not put into a pressure situation. Also won't be put into a pressure situation Philly. So I think, again, that's a player they could look at. But again, I think that's something that they would really like there, is just that 3 that's going to be that next guy after Wilson Chandler leaves. You haven't go Miles Bridges, though, because Zaire's off your board.
Yeah, pretty much for me, it was Zaire Smith, I think, has higher upside potential than Miles Bridges. That's why I have him going to Philly, because I don't think that they're going to get another pick this high for a long time. So rolling with pure potential on that one. I mean, they're both good athletes. Miles Bridges does have a couple inches on him and some weight. I think the crazy athleticism for his size for Zaire is what I would look towards more. For Miles on this team, like you said, it's small forward depth, and what he can do, like you said, he's played on a solid team as a team. So, again, he's not asked to step in. He's asked to fill a role. He's more so able to provide some bench scoring and good defense and being part of their team rather than having to stand out and do something at the next level. Because let's be honest, late in the lottery, there's one Don Mitchell. It's a rare occurrence when someone outside of the top, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spots.
I mean, we are seeing a little bit more, though. I mean,
right.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi, Nikola.
It's about one a year.
Yeah. So, I mean, this could be the guy in Zaire Smith.
Yeah. So the point in my mind is that, like, realistically, most of these guys are going to be bench guys earlier in their career. Yes, people are getting more athletic, training earlier in their careers, and coming into the NBA more ready than ever. But I still think this year I see a lot of guys who are going to come off the bench, and there's nothing wrong with that. That just means the guys in front of them have a lot of experience. They're under contract, it's just the state of the NBA as it is. I'm sure it will change in the next couple of years, but like Bridges coming off the bench as a good leader, good player, and like there's nothing to be unhappy about there.
We have 1 through 30 set, boys. We finally are set in our lotto. We aren't going to have to change it from now on. 1 through 14 is set. 15 through 30 has been set for a while. Now we just need to get over with the finals. It'll be officially NBA draft season in full swing. We have the combine coming up, so it's going to be interesting to see how everything develops. Michael Porter Jr. is going to be a big name to watch for. Zaire Smith is going to be a big name to watch for. We've gone through the whole thing, though. We have 1 through 30 set. Any big shock so far? Any big surprises so far? Any things that we didn't talk about in this podcast you just want to throw out there at the end?
No, not really. I mean, for me, the one thing I'm happy with this lotto is that it didn't stay chalk. I hate, if you're going to have a lottery, I hate when it stays the same.
The point is to shake things up.
Exactly. And then this shook things up with the Kings getting the 2 picks.
And Silver wants to do that. And next year, we're not going to see the 25, 19, and whatever the rest are.
1 through 3 is now equal.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're probably going to see more shakeups coming up. So that's going to be super interesting to see after next year. So this is the final, final regime of the 25 and 19 and whatever system. So that's something we got to bring up as well.
From my end, it's the no disrespect to Kent Bazemore. We were talking about the Hawks a ton, and we gave him no
Kent
love.
Bazemore sucks. That's why.
But there you go.
And I hate Kent Bazemore. He's not a good player, so that's why.
We literally changed his last name.
Yeah, Kent Bazemore is not a guy who
tons of disrespect.
is a fan of the podcast.
I tried to give him some love.
I was going to say, isn't it Bazemore?
It's Bazemore,
not
but he's Blazemore.
Yeah. Kent Bazemore is not a fan of our podcast, so not a friend of the show. Kent Bazemore.
Wow. We're gonna make everyone. If you listen to all 2.5 hours,
what if we
of
do
this,
that? What if we do that? Yeah, I'm loopy right now. What if we do that? Like every single person that we mention, like LeBron James, friend of the show, he watches all the time. The only player that we never give credit to is Kent Bazemore.
We just pick a fight.
Yeah, he's enemy of the show, not friend of the show. He's enemy of the show. Kent Bazemore. Why not? We're not gonna meet any of these guys. We're not gonna interview any of these guys.
We could.
Sean's decided. I can't wait till the day.
I'm gonna throw it out there. If we ever interview Kent Bazemore, if you guys have hookups,
I'm gonna reach out to
hook us up with Kent Bazemore.
I was gonna say I will reach out to him on Twitter,
and I'm gonna hit him up on the phone and be like, "Hey Kent, what's up?"
On the DMs.
And be like, "So you're number one enemy of the show, right?" And I'll see what his reaction is. Maybe he'll punch me through the phone. I don't know.
I like it.
I think he'll probably beat me up. Anyways, this has been way too long of a podcast. It's back-to-back 2-hour podcast.
And I mean, the last thing I'm going to mention is a little show promo for MVP is next week. Last big board of the year for the NBA with the PTP. And then June 9th, our 2-round mock draft. That's our last one.
2-round mock draft with trades and all. And it's going to be way too early.
So we are doing trades?
Yeah, we're doing trades.
Okay.
Why not? It's last mock draft. Let's get crazy.
All
we're
right.
doing 2 rounds. You're doing mock drafts. I mean, it's going to be insane. We're not going to talk about all 60 picks. I can tell. We just did 14. It's been 2 hours. We're not doing a 5-hour podcast.
Well, no, they're in sections. We're going back for that one. We're going into the segment.
Yeah, but I'm still saying, in total, it's going to have to hit a certain time. We're not doing a 5-hour podcast. It's still probably going to be 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're doing trades in that one.
They love it.
I know they love it. Sometimes
are we doing
stamina
approval for trades, or are we just saying these trades are happening?
No, I say individual. Like trades that you think, trades that I think, trades that you think.
Yeah, I think the only thing is we got to watch him with the Bulls picks. I think that's the only thing. We got to watch him with the Bulls pick.
Me? It's always Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah,
right?
I'm saying trades up. Maybe you think something crazy though. Bobby Porter's in the 22nd. The Knicks totally want that. Maybe you'll try to swing away for Trae Young and Michael Porter Jr. But anyways, I think it was super fun. Lottery, we still got another month left to go. We want to thank everybody for supporting us over the past month and this month as well. It's been a huge month for MVP. We absolutely love it. You guys on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, of course. You guys are the real MVPs. We just picked that name off from one of the vacuums back here. So we love you guys so much. You guys are absolutely fantastic. You help us make our dreams come true, and also the Phoenix Suns' dreams come true are now the number 1 overall pick in the 2018 NBA draft. They did not get Suns, and we too bad those shirts were already made. So maybe hindsight's 50-50, and we probably shouldn't have got those shirts made. But
it's just the Suns logo, and it's like a crying Jordan face in the middle. Of the sun.
It's a crying sun. I have it up here. It's a crying sun. It says you got Suns.
You got Suns.
And it has all the picks where they got Suns. So it would have been this year they got the 4th pick. Last year they got the 4th pick. It's a great shirt that's never going to see the light of day. But anyways, thank you so much for listening on all of our platforms. We love you so much for the growth. Check out patreon.com/mostvaluable-podcast if you want to help us grow more. If you want to be on one of these things, if you want to be on a podcast, call us in on this phone. Go to patreon.com/mostvaluable-podcast. Hit that $10 tier up. If you want to see me put hot wings in my face, go to the $5 tier and vote for that.
I think that's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen one day.
I'm going to be sweating, not because this room's ungodly hot.
It's going to happen one day.
And then also go to mostvaluablepodcast.com if you want to rock a shirt. Rate us 5 stars on iTunes. It's going to help us grow even more. And finally subscribe to YouTube.
It felt like he was looking over at me like he's got the shirt. No, he doesn't.
And let's get into the next podcast. No, I'm kidding. For Dave Oster, Ricky Widmer. We'll be back here on Friday. I'm Sean Anderson. We'll see you next time.